edition of the Throwback Thursday. In fact, I think it's the first Throwback Thursday edition of Paleocrat Diaries we've ever had. So you're going to need to make sure to have your coffee ready. It's going to be mega dope. Oh, no. I'm out of coffee. No.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I should overcome, what for? Train in the trees, please walk my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands, and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Ain't no challenge for champions and chain no fear.
I'm out of coffee. I'm out of coffee. Oh my gosh, come on now. Come on now. This is not right. My staff is letting me down. And I think I know why. I think I know why the staff has let me down today. The reason why is because they're not here. My staff is not here. A couple of them are. A couple of them are. They're probably napping. Oh, man, my staff, they think they can get away with everything. Anything at all. They're like, oh, because you're what, 4 months old? 2 years old, you think you can get away with it? I don't think so. Get on that coffee right now. Oh my gosh, man. Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what. Oh, I'm happy to be here. It's going to be different today. It's been different the last couple days, right? It's been a little bit different because we're making some big changes. And in fact, I'm sorry to tell you this, okay? The changes are going to come faster than you know. In fact, the changes are going to begin at the end of the show tomorrow. So I didn't know how I was going to announce this because it really does break my heart. And, you know, I'm kind of a little bit of a cry guy. And so I'm going to try really hard. Man, my hair's still wet. I had to wash my hair. I'm looking in the camera. I'm like getting all kind of emotional and distracted. I'm like distracting myself. And I'm like, man, my hair is still wet. I thought I dried that thing. So here's the thing, though, is that I've made the decision, and this is hard. This is hard to say. I made the decision that I'm going to no longer do daily live shows. Okay? And I stress daily. I stress daily. Part of it has to do with trial and error. When I first started the program, it was like, what, 2 days a week? I think it was was it Tuesdays, Thursdays, something like that? You know, we've been at this for almost 5 months now. Okay, so I think we've got like 130 or more episodes of this. And many of those were 3 hours long. So, I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, a ridiculous amount of effort, time, and I joke around and I say this, that it really is the, you know, one-man mariachi band going on here. But that's actually true. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you see, all of the transitions, all of the different the music, the intro, the outro stuff, you know, the split screen at the end when the kids come down and everything, the music that goes with that, all of the graphics on that. I did that, okay? And I thought about it, and I've thought about it for a while, and I said, you know, it's one of those things, getting back to the roots of what you stand for. And why did I start this in the first place? What was I doing? What was my goal with this? What was my goal? Because Paleocrat Diaries did not begin with Holy Faith Media. It didn't. It started before that. It started after, I think it was 16 months of no videos, no blogs, no articles, no social media, no interviews, no speeches, no panel discussions, no debates, no nothing, no radio appearances, no podcasts. No, nothing. You need to go to church, Jeremiah. You've been an atheist for years. You lost your daughter. You're all sorts of messed up. And you need to go to church as often as you can. And I went like, what, 320 times, 325 times in a year or something like that? I mean, every day I was in church, every single morning. And I was the most productive in my regular everyday life, the most intimate with my family that I'd ever been. The most productive around the home that I'd ever been. And I was beginning to kind of refamiliarize myself with many of the gifts and talents that God gave me. But over time, you know, the thing is, I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. I'm like, I've done radio for so long. I did radio, podcasting, all sorts of stuff for a long time. I did some local TV stuff. It was years and years ago. But I'd done that. I'd done lobbying work. I'd done speeches and lectures, stuff like that. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I'm like, I needed to kind of follow God on this. And I went back and I decided, once I decided to come back, and in fact, I'm going to show you the video today that started it. The video that brought me back and started this entire thing. And it's the most popular video that I've made in the last 2 years. It's the most currently the most popular video on my channel. And it's the story of an atheist family that lost a tragic loss and the beautiful life, the life and death of our daughter, Samantha Lee, to childhood brain cancer, and how that brought our family back to the faith. I'm going to show you that video. I want you to see the story. I want you to see her, because that is ultimately what even put me in a place where we came back to God, to get in that place and in that atmosphere and space, headspace, where we were even considering, what are we going to do with our lives? What are we going to do with our gifts and talents for God? Who are we anymore? I mean, it's all sorts of discombobulating. You walk away from the faith for as long as we did and come back. I mean, you don't know what you're going to do. It's a messed up thing. And you don't want to jump real quickly into doing something and falling prey to the very things that drove that sort of arrogance that would even lead you out of the church in the first place. I had to be careful. I still do. And so that was one thing, right? But came back, made a video promoting the school, talking about my kids and the school, which is the thrust of this show. Every single penny that this show makes, and we don't make a lot. We make a handful of pennies. People are throwing pennies. It's good. We have some that are bigger donors. But that's what the show is, 100%. We don't use any money from donations for anything other than directly sending our kids to school, because that's the only reason I came back to the microphone. That's it. And so that's priority. That's the core of all of this. Okay. And I did another video after that. I started making videos because people loved them. People were like, that video went all over the place. Tons of people, right? All over the place. And the thing is that I made another video after that called My Fear, Loathing, and Love of Confession. And I talk about the difficulties of having to fess up to something. And I go deep. I go into some stuff that's pretty personal, but I lay it on the line. And you'll enjoy it. It's an excellent video. It's a throwback, so it's fitting for today. But as I was preparing that, I thought, and I said, you know what? Here's the crazy thing about it, is that it reminded me of why I am doing any of this. Why am I here? What is my vocation? I said next week we're going to pray about vocations. And the truth is, I've already prayed about mine. And it was a weird thing. And what it was, and I'm sorry we're just getting so personal right out of the gate, but we don't have a lot of time. The thing is that before COVID, in fact, right before COVID, in fact, the week before COVID, I spent an entire week doing a novena to Saint Jose Maria Escriva. And every single day, I'm on my face, every single day, going to this church up the road, not even the church I normally go to, going there every single day, and I'm laying on the floor like some kind of mystic. They all leave, right? They have a school there and everything, and it was normal times, okay? Pre-COVID stuff. And they all leave, and I stuck around every day for like a half an hour, 45 minutes, and I'm laying on the floor on the last day, and there's a cross on the floor, and I'm just laying on the floor, and I'm crying out to God with all my might, by myself. I'm grateful. I didn't care, though. I didn't care at that point. I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I was so confused. I was so doubting in every single way you could possibly doubt yourself and what you're intended to do in this world, and if you're even worthy at all to do it. I was so bad that I was so messed up by this, and had not recovered and had not accepted that God really loves me and that God has a plan for me. That when I first got connected with Meaning of Catholic with Tim Flanders, it was a real struggle. I've only written a couple things over there, and it was really tough. And I remember telling him, I said, look, if you just tell me what to do, you tell me to go report on something, tell me to go cover a certain topic, I'll do it. But I couldn't come up with it on my own. Not because I couldn't, but because I was messed up. Because I hadn't healed yet. I hadn't accepted the healing that God had been already doing on me for 16 months. But that day when I laid on that floor, that was a different thing. That was a different thing. Completely different. I mean, it was an amazing spark. It's like a spark of life. Boom. And just bursting out of me. And I'm sitting there, and it was so overwhelming. And the thing is, in that moment, I heard one word. One. And I couldn't shake it. Right. Right. W-R-I-T-E. Right. I go and I'm leaving. I'm walking back home. I get to the car. I check, or I didn't walk. I get to the car. I pull out my cell phone before I'm driving off. I look, and I've got messages. 2 of those messages. One is a text from my dad asking me not only how I'm doing writing the book, but saying he's going to stay on my tail about it. Then I check Facebook, and I see I've got a message from one of my daughter's best friends, Emily. How are you doing on your book? How much longer before it comes out? The odds of this, I had not received a single thing at all about writing. Not one thing about writing for 2 years. Nothing. And that day, after hearing that, on that floor, I mean, it was clear as day. I go home and I tell my wife, I said, this is blowing my mind. It's blowing my mind. And I had all these other inputs throughout the next couple days. It was insane. None of them, I didn't go out and say I was going to write anything. I did nothing. But all of these different inputs, all these different people. And I'm like, what are the odds of this? It was mind-blowing. I couldn't believe it. Then COVID happens. And the fear sets back in. And I completely lost track. I was consumed again with visual mediums and watching this stuff. And I lost track of it. I tried writing for a minute, but I was even caught up, being distracted, always wanting to see what the news was about it. I didn't get very far. And I've been at about 85% of a completed novel now for a couple years of my life. It's a terrible thing. But then Jonathan Ross, he's the head guy over at Holy Faith Media. Jonathan Ross reaches out to me. I don't know if you know anything about Jonathan. He's a really cool guy, by the way. It's an honor to be his friend. We talked about this decision yesterday. We talked on the phone for a while. And he's the one who brought up the one day, he brought up what we're going to do, okay? I'm kind of going a little ahead of myself. But here's the thing, is that when he said it, I said, that's God. I mean, the likelihood that he would bring up the exact thing that I was thinking, right? I'm like, I just got to trust, man. This is a good thing, okay? But the thing is, he called me. And this is, well, he messaged me on Facebook. This is back, this is back around the time when COVID first kind of began and stuff. Maybe even a little bit before. He'd reached out to me asking me if I would be interested in being part of this network. And I had zero interest, right? Because I was still in that place, in that headspace. Then he contacts me later when COVID first began, asked again. I was like, no, I don't think so. But I learned a little bit more. And he was like, I think it'd be really good and stuff like that. And I was sure it would be. But I'm like, I don't know. And then he calls a third time and he's like, dude, look, can we just talk for a minute? And he's like, I don't know if you know this, Jeremiah, but I know who you are. I know of the videos that you made years ago. Those early days of YouTube. I've watched those back in the day. Those videos had an impact on me, and I didn't even know that you came back to the faith. I was hurt and sad when you left, and I didn't know you came back. And when I found out you came back, I knew I needed to reach out to you. I knew that he's like, I had to do it. And I'm glad that he did, because he reached out to me. And he said, so the third time, and he's telling me this, and I'm thinking, okay, well, all right, let's do this. He's like, I'm not just asking you because you're some random guy. I'm not just trying to get content. I want your content. I want you as a person. I want you with this. And so I said yes. I prayed about it. I talked to my wife about it, but said yes. Now, here's the thing. Decided in the beginning I wanted to do 2 days a week, but it was so exciting. And I was figuring stuff out. I was learning the technology and stuff, and it was so easy to do. To sit in front of this microphone and just boom, 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 boom. Every day, and I'm like, man, I can do this. And so I said, dude, look, I'm willing to do this 5 days a week, bro. I was pumped about it. And it was awesome. And then the election's ramping up, and it's awesome, and it's getting bigger. More people are tuning in. More people are sharing it. More people are commenting and everything else. And it was just awesome. And then it got up to 3 hours a day. Right before the election and right after, for good reason. If you go back and listen, and you should, it gives you a good idea as to how we got where we are now. But the thing is, those 3 hours a day, as it got bigger and bigger and bigger and more dynamic and more dynamic and more dynamic, and it started to be like, well, you're thinking about, well, how can we expand more? Because you want to just get bigger. You're like, man, dude, this is dope. The feeling you get, the rush you get, man, seeing all the names on the screen. I'll put you guys in the background right now. Here we go. Check this out. Let's get you right here in the window capture. And I'll put myself on my mini me camera. Here we go. Look at that guy. Super cute. So here's the thing. It's super exciting to see the comments and to see all the people tuning in. To see the numbers at the end of the day. When I first started, man, it was like 100 people. There was nobody watching. And it's still small. All together, all put together, I'll put it out there. All together, you're talking anywhere from about 1,600 to 2,300 a day. Live. Now, that doesn't mean they're even watching. It says like the average watch time is like 25 minutes or something. That's not bad. Not bad for a show like this. I'll take it. But the idea is you are seeing it grow and get bigger and bigger. You're seeing more people. I remember when my phone started bing, 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 and just notifications going through the roof because people were going to the website, to the .com, and they were subscribing. And I had it set up. I had to turn it off because I had people, even visitors. It would tell me the visitors and stuff. It would, a new visitor showed up. And it was amazing. It's amazing like this. In the comments, you got right here, Suzanne Rose down at the bottom. Hello from New Hampshire. Man, I got people tuning in from different places all the time now, telling me where they are. You know how awesome that is, the feeling? How awesome that is? And you know how easy it is when you're feeling awesome to completely lose track of the very calling and the very reason you began it in the first place? You know how easy that is? It's like being on a wild adventure and finding yourself in a magic mushroom field and just walking through it, the spores are getting you all hallucinating and blown out. Or like what is it, the poppies or whatever in Wizard of Oz. Walking through it. Look, man, it's easy to get lost in that universe. It's easy to lose track of the vision. It's easy to even lose track of the path that you are walking on. And like Cherie says in the comments, you can't do everything. By the way, it's good to see you, Cherie. I miss you like you don't even know, woman. You don't even know. I miss you like crazy. I need your name more often, man. I need it. And Maya too. Look at that. I like that. Yeah, hello from Michigan with a big gold smile. But here's the thing, is that, you get so excited about what you're doing. And you're seeing those gains and you're hearing those notifications and you're seeing those new follows and you're seeing the shares and you're seeing all the comments and the engagement. You're going to events and networking with more people and you're seeing all of the progress and it feels so good. But that isn't the word that resonated in my mind and in my heart when I was laying on the floor of St. Stephen's. It didn't say, do a daily live show. It didn't do that. It didn't say, talk about really hilarious animal stories or David Rush and his Guinness book. Like, there was none of that. Now, I don't think it's wrong. And I need to be really clear about something. My criticisms of screen time that I did the last couple days, those are not to say that we need to just all go outside and smash our telephones. It might be a good idea, but I'm not encouraging that. I don't even plan to do that myself. I'm not going to stop making videos. I'm not going to stop doing things that involve a visual medium where you're going to see and hear me. That ain't going to happen. But like Cherie said, you can't do everything. It's okay and necessary to set limits. Yes. Yes, because how many times have you guys heard me talk where I'm saying, look, I need to write. It's in my bones, man. It's a fire within me, in my mind and in my heart. I got to get it out. I got to get it out. And every time I'm like, it's just so hard. Every day, you know how much work goes into this? It's easy because people can just turn this on and watch it. Somebody asked me yesterday, a guy, they're staying at the house. In fact, it's the reason we're kind of late today. And why there's no coffee, although it's coming right now. It's coming. Let's see. I love you, by the way, baby. And little Wolfgang. And little Wolfie. I love you, Wolf. Oh. Uh-oh. Yeah. Let me see. I got it. So, yesterday we had some friends over there. Angela's best friend, the dad died, and they've been staying at our home. Today is the funeral and the burial. It was supposed to go live because he's a veteran, so they were going to have the salute and everything with the guns, which is what I will have for mine. Anyway, the thing is, they're staying, and he saw part of it. He'd never seen the show before. And he asked, he's like, so do you script that, man? Like, that's, you're talking some deep junk, dude. You're talking deep stuff, like, for a couple hours. Intensity level through the roof and stuff. No, I don't. I have no script. I have mental cues, I guess, because I have chat comments that I can bounce off of, and I've got stories or pictures that can cue images and ideas in my head. But I'm like, I read for hours and hours and hours a day. I probably spend at least 3 hours or more every day researching and selecting topics. I spend an hour and a half preparing before the show just to even get it where it's set up with all the pictures, that they're cropped and aligned properly, that they're ordered in a way that flows like a table of contents, right? So I've got all that stuff. Man. But that, and then 2 to 3 hours on the air. Do you know how much time that is? That's a lot of time. And I'm my own boss. I don't have somebody paying me to do it. I get a little bit of money. If people click on ads or whatever on Holy Faith Media, like I'll get money from that. Super chats. I get money from that. Stuff like that. It's super rare. The super chats, by the way. It's okay. YouTube takes tons of money. It's kind of a ripoff, to be honest. But the thing is that the bang for the buck, and I said, and ultimately my family was at the core, and yet I was finding with more and more time being required to do this, and that's not even including the time necessary to create videos for the group afterward, like our super show idea, and or the social media involvement and engagement, responding to emails, updating the website, creating clips so that people can share and it's not 2 hours long, all of these things. And I thought, there's a good idea here. It's obvious. People are tuning in like crazy. It's obvious. At the same time, you can have something that's a good idea that goes off the rails. And you got to hone it back in. And sometimes that's going to be tough. And it was amazing because as all this was happening, and it's kind of going through my head and in my heart with all this, and I'm looking at my life and I'm seeing how much time my kids are doing homework and I'm not anywhere around. I'm seeing days go by where I don't even have time to read. I don't have time to write. And I'm seeing it, and I'm like, oh, if only I had more time. The fact is, I do. I do have more time. But I'm using my time, and I'm using it in a way that is not very wise. It's not the biggest bang for the buck. Somebody talked to me yesterday, and they were like, Jeremiah, you're a really talented guy, and it's gonna be a bummer that you're not gonna be doing it every day. And I thought, and I replied, and I said, look, God gave me like a Gatling gun worth of gifts and talents. Okay, He loaded me up, just whole chain, this long chain bullets. Just put them in there, boom, 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 boom. Brrr, shells flying everywhere. And I thought, man, I said, He loaded me up good with it. I've got gifts and talents coming out the wazoo. And I said, but what am I doing with it? Drive-by. Drive-by firecrackers. Like those tubes you put the old, you put the firecracker in the end of it. The bottle rocket. You drive by a house like that, but outside the window, somebody inside says, whoa. Don't encourage that, by the way. The 90s were a thing. But here's the thing, is that that's what it's like every day. Great fireworks, great display, sounds, excitement, entertainment, all of that. Enlightenment, okay? Encouragement. People have come back to the Lord through the show, watching the show. They've said as much. At the same time, I thought and I said, I am doing it like my buddy who asked if I have a script. I said, I'm doing this improvisationally every single day. I have minimal notes. I have minimal little cues. Every single thing. I sit in front of it, I get dressed, I get ready, and boom, as soon as that mic's on, blam! It's on like freaking Donkey Kong. And I happen to, I'll take Phil's word at it. He says, you do a great job, Jeremiah. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. But like Cherie says, man, again, I love you, girl. Turn that machine gun of talents into a sniper. Make a few count. You'll feel more fulfilled. Bada boom, bada bing. Bada boom, bada bing. It's totally true, 100%. You're right. I got all the mixins. I got all the ingredients, right? And I said, but rather than doing something that's a template, which is what the show is, I've got a template. I've got my Be Right Back video. I've got my main screen, which is what this is, that has my window capture so you can see it. I've got a news screen, a news scene with sources in there that are all of the different pictures that I pull up, and I'll go through and cycle through them like a table of contents for stories and topics. And then I've got a split screen at the end where the music comes in, and I'm telling everybody, goodbye, and we salute at the end. And that's got the exiting music, right, at the end of the show. But it's a template. And I said, here's what I want, though. I said, here's what I want. I actually want to make real productions. A friend of mine, a guy called me and he says, look, he said, you got this thing going where, for whatever reason, you think maybe that you should be in front of the camera, but you're the kind of person who needs to be behind it. You've got that skill and that skill set to be behind it, to put together a production, to be confident in your work and say, I have an editorial eye. I have the eye and the ambition and the vision of a director that can say, okay, well, this needs to be done. This needs to be done. We need to bring these people together. Here's the parts. Here's the script. I know how to do this. And yet every day I'm giving my best in the moment, in the moment, in the moment, in the moment, in the moment. And that's great. That's great. And I'm glad you can tell it is. Look at the people who come. Look at the people who show up. Listen to Stephanie. You have a plate spilling over with food for the mind, body, and soul. It's heavy and about to spill. Writing empties the plate. Every sentence or paragraph is a spoonful that empties that plate. You better believe it, girl. You better believe it. And the thing is, to take this, instead of just sitting there saying every day, just cranking it out every single day, to say, I want to make something that people are going to crave. They're going to, when they see that and they see my name on that, they're going to say that right there is a piece of quality work. End of story. And it's not something here today, gone tomorrow. That's something that's timeless. It's like the books that I read. I don't like reading a lot of modern books on politics because they're so wrapped up in current events. Take one. I'll give you one as an example from somebody that I like a lot. Okay. I really like this person, Patrick Buchanan. He wrote a book, and that book is called, I think it's Where the Right Went Wrong. It's all about kind of the neocons and the Iraq War, and so it's all kind of trapped in time. He wrote another book called A Republic, Not an Empire, and another one still called The Great Betrayal that talks about the history of trade in the United States. It's not tethered so tightly to a specific moment in time. It's topical. There are themes to it. You might be interested in that. I can pick up Great Betrayal today, and it's no less true right now than it was when he wrote it. It's no less relevant. It's same thing with books by folks like, Cicero, writing about friendship. Or the saints when they write about the devout life or preparation for death. Those books were written hundreds of years ago. Timeless. Those topics are still transforming lives right now. And it's different. There's still books that are really popular from ancient times, like the Antiquities of Josephus, but that's a specific time. That's capturing a snapshot of a moment. That's what every single day. So imagine the Antiquities of Josephus talking about a period of time that would involve the siege on Jerusalem, the sacking of the temple, stuff like that. Fulfillment of prophecy, by the way. And so to capture that moment in time, that is not as timeless as things like the Iliad or the Odyssey. It's not as timeless. It's timeless in a way, but the interest of that is more specialized as time goes by. It's not as general. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do, and I felt that God helped me to do, is to take really, and somebody said this, Maya, in fact, she did the introduction to my speech at the Capitol in Lansing for the Christmas event. And she was talking about how I can take really difficult topics, fancy words and stuff, and make them accessible, where people can understand. And not just that they can understand, but they can see how it's relevant, and they can see how it applies, and see how they can put it to use in their own life. Everyday folks. That's why I emphasize the Johnny Q and Sally Sue. I'm not riding on your back for money. I ain't getting money. I'm not making a bunch of loot. It's a joke when I say it. And the thing is, because I genuinely care about the everyday person, because that's how I got started even studying topics that were theological and stuff. It was through people like R.C. Sproul and C.S. Lewis. People who could talk about Calvinism or scientism or topics like the abolition of man, right? And those things, miracles, theology, philosophy. One of the biggest things, this is why I can't give up all the way on visual mediums. One of the most impactful things that I've ever studied or anything like that was a series. I have it still on VHS. Can't watch it, but I've got it on VHS. R.C. Sproul, Calvinist guy, talking about, he's seminarian, he head of Ligonier ministry and stuff like that. That guy did a series on philosophy that was remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. And I don't know if it was the consequence of ideas or ideas and consequences, but it was absolutely remarkable. I still have it to this day. I took notes. I have the notes. I have preserved the notes that I took when I was listening to that series. It was long. There's 30 or 40 different lectures in there. I went through every single one. I took notes. I watched it 2 or 3 times over the entire thing. And that made me realize that when I would go into a bookstore in the philosophy section and I would see things that said metaphysics or ontological or teleological or epistemological, when I saw those terms, I'd be intimidated. I didn't know, I knew phonics, so I could try to, it might take me a minute, but I'll figure out how to say it. But I didn't know what it meant, much less how it applied to me. Why is it relevant? To me, I had no idea. Those videos, those lectures broke it down in such a way that I was able to realize, to conceptualize that, and it broadened a framework in my head that was something that from that point forward, really, from that point forward, it was like building block upon building block. It allowed me and encouraged me and enabled me to even be in that place where I could say, I understand that. And if I didn't understand it all the way, I had the basics, and I had to have the humility to say, help me to understand a little bit more. But with each and every time that happened, each and every time I'd sit there and I'd take extra notes, I'd buy a different book, challenge myself a little more, and it got to the place it is now. And so to me, I've always wanted to make it something accessible to the everyday person. And I'm not going to let that go, by the way. Ain't going to happen. You got to keep going. But the thing is, I want to make it in such a way, like I don't sit there. Look, I enjoy, for example, throughout my life, I've enjoyed daily talk show hosts. That's why I got in radio. Daily talk show hosts in the past when I was younger, like Rush Limbaugh, like Michael Savage, Alex Jones. There were different people over the years, even Hannity for, a little bit. Not too long, but even Hannity, right? And so Tucker Carlson, right? These were individuals that they would get on there every day. They would do their shtick, and I would hear them. But the truth is, most of the time that I would hear them, with the exception of Tucker, was still drive-by because I'd listen in the car. And so you're hearing it. It's entertaining. It informed my idea of what I'm doing here. But none of that had the intellectual and the moral and spiritual impact of those VHS tapes of R.C. Sproul, or the cassette tapes of Gregory Bahnsen, another person who, super bright guy, another Calvinist, right? Admittedly, because I was a Calvinist for almost 10 years. So the two of them, and in fact, I even got into him because he debated R.C. Sproul, and even their debate was such that you could understand what they're talking about. And I was still an everyday dude. I hadn't read hundreds and hundreds of books by that point. I wasn't even a baker's dozen. I was still in Watchman Nee land. I didn't know. I think I was reading Benny Hinn. I'm not even kidding. I just got into this world of books. But those guys were able to use media. They were able to use media in such a way that it made it so that it transformed me. So the idea that I'm going to just look at it and say, there's of no benefit whatsoever. I know it comes with a cost. There's going to have to be, accepting the existence of that medium. Like I said yesterday, there's no free lunch here. At the same time, that's what people are doing. But not every day. Not every day. Because I want it to be something that is produced in a manner that has intention. And it's not based on the luck or the natural raw talent of being able to, in the moment, improvise and keep on going. Like I said yesterday in the throwback video yesterday, I've always had that, gift of gab where people are like, dude, this guy can't shut up. That's one of those things. I can do this. And I'm fortunate that I can, so it's almost like that's a little bit of a mirage too, that you think because you can talk for hours and hours on end, and you're good at keeping the flow of the conversation going and engaging with people, that's what you're supposed to do. And it's some humble pie to say no. Because it feels good, by the way. Because it feels good. I mean, look, it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see all of you. And already at 100 comments. By the way, if you love this show, I hope you do. And I mean, I love you guys. You don't, maybe I'm starting to accept this because I know for a fact that you've had a huge impact on me. I wouldn't be doing this, if, to know that you're there, to see your names, to begin to learn more of your story. Like yesterday, I learned more about David the Hermit. It blew my mind, bro. It blew my mind. But I've met some of you. I've communicated outside of the show with some of you. I've engaged in real time with some of you, and I've seen you come back, and I've seen you come back. And I know that you have to choose between different things. And you choose during this time, you choose me and my show. You choose the message. You relate however you're relating, whether it's the topics or a combination of the topics and the entertainment quality or, the very attractive and intelligent host of the show. The goofy, crazy guy with hair on fire, growling, rah, rah, doing that crap. Whatever it is, you've connected, and I know it. I know it, and it has had such a huge impact on me that I knew, and it started happening. This idea when I talked about be prepared to die. Be prepared to die, because it's not just death to existence where you're now going to be on the other side. You're the final death of the body, right? In time, you're born, you live, you die, but also the death that you have to do every single day to all these little things in your life, all of these idols. Look at the names, and you can see that it's coming out of me, slaying sacred cows. That was the episode, I think, the very next one. Another one was demolishing idols. These things, that was me. And I say, how many times have I said, you guys? How many times have I said that even though sometimes it's preachy and it sounds like I'm pointing at the camera, that I see myself in that camera? And that I'm speaking just as much to me. In fact, even more, because I know my faults. And that's why it's personal sometimes. It gets crazy. It gets crazy, all that stuff. And so I want to make things where I can begin to do for you at an intentional, professional level with the skill set that I have. I went to school for this. It's not a joke. I went years to study this, and I've spent years practicing this and preparing myself for this. I have to believe for this very moment, for this very thing, to say I want it to be something that just like me, even if the technology itself is outdated, those VHS, I don't even own a VHS right now. I can't watch those things if I wanted to. I ain't throwing them away. No way. Those things had an impact on me. Big time. I kept that folder. It had an impact on me to this day. I want to know that I can do that for you. And I can't do that by just being in the moment every day, trying to do my best, giving it everything I've got in the moment. I have to be able to sit back, to focus, to plot it out, to take time in editing and post-production. And by the time you get it, that it's something you can feel, I want to be able to send it to your home where you get it and you're pumped up to open that box. We're going to do a lot. We're going to do a lot, guys. That's what I want. I want to be able to do these productions. I want to be able to write these books. I want to be able to draw. I want to learn how to paint. And I want to publish. People ask me, where do you get the music, man? I make it. With the exception of the rap song at the beginning. I make that music. I write music. I play guitar. I sing. I write lyrics. I write poetry and prose and speculative fiction. And I want you to be able to have it. I'm an artist. I've never learned to paint. I want to. I'm a sketch artist. I want to be able to have my art in such a way that people can buy prints and put it on their wall, that it's exceptional, not based on the person, like, oh, it's Jeremiah. No. I want it to be awesome so that when people walk by, they look at it, that it inspires thought and feeling within them. I want it in your home. I want it as gifts to your friends. not as a link on Facebook, not as something that's just another link on another platform that can't wait to censor the snot out of us. Heck no. I want those pamphlets. I want you to be able to put those pamphlets in churches. We have a bookshelf in our church. I want to have that bookshelf where it's got our pamphlets in there, that people can take it home and see it and not have to be like, well, there's a link in one of my messages or on my wall. Here today, gone tomorrow. It's a big fat blur on there. I don't know what's on there. Wouldn't even know how to archive it if I tried. They can put it in their library. They can hang it on their wall. They can put it in their CD player or their MP3. Better believe it. And that's why I'm saying, man, I'm like, look, bring on this death. It's okay. At first I was afraid. And then I thought, and I said, wait a second. Like I said yesterday, man, I said, look, I said, I feel those rails on that train. They're just shaking like crazy. And at first it terrified me. Like, what is this, an earthquake? What's coming my way? I saw the smoke from far away, that billowing black cloud of smoke like a volcano. And you can hear that chugging along and that chugging along. And as it gets closer, it's getting louder and it's getting louder. And at first, the fear, oh no, what am I going to do? And then, boom, it hits you and you say, I'm going to do what I was told to do when laying my body on a cross in a church, doing a novena pertaining to my vocation. Bwham. On like Donkey Kong, son. Ugh. I'm telling you, it's so empowering. And that's why I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this engine that says YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Yeah. I'm seeing all those monstrous people that run that crap and their faces. They're the conductors of this thing coming straight at me, and I got a smile on my face. They don't understand us. They don't understand us. And we need to get to that place where we're like, look, like conversations yesterday. Well, what are we going to do, Jeremiah, if we don't have that? We're going to do all the things that made the world great for thousands of years. Thousands of years. We have thousands of years of tools at our disposal. More than any, this is true of any time in history. So it's definitely true of ours, right? It's true of every time in history. So it was true in 1980. The people in 1980 had more tools at their disposal than any other time in history because it's all the tools combined up to 1980. For 2021, baby, think of how much we've got at our disposal. Why are we focused all our eggs in a basket of somebody who wants to sit there and crack our eggs and crack our eggs and crack our eggs and throw them out? What are we doing? Haven't we read, maybe we haven't we read of the great feats of people before us? The people that changed the world. What did they do? What did they do? Did those people, did St. Francis de Sales, did he go on Facebook and start a group or a page and create an event? Or did he sit there, sometimes in candlelight, writing with his hand and having it replicated and having people go into the city of Geneva and tuck those letters underneath the doors in the middle of the night because he'd been standing on some soapboxes and going around the town and they were going to kill him? 40,000 people, 40,000 people in the heart of Calvinistic Protestant civilization at that point. That's the home of John Calvin. 40,000 people returned back to the Catholic Church. No Facebook page, no Facebook event, no Twitter handle, no Instagram, none of that. Now, would they use that nowadays? Maybe. They'd probably use as many means at their disposal as they could. They weren't using smoke signals, right? So they would still recognize that some of those are good, but if they sat there and said, look, the bad guy is overseeing and monitoring all of this and wants us out of there, and making it really tough to use it, you think they'd put all their eggs in that basket? Get out of here. Get out of here, man. You don't have time for that crap. You don't have time for that crap. It's going to require us to do different stuff, isn't it? It's going to require us to really put our heads together and say, okay, I was talking to somebody, was I describing it yesterday, saying, you know, that take for instance, the idea of getting out information in your church regarding prayer requests. What did they call that? Do you guys remember? Let me scroll down. I'll get back up to this. There's some great comments, by the way. Maybe back here. So here's the thing. What did they call that? I know the answer. I want to know if you do. Some churches still have it, where if there's a prayer request, you contact and somehow it gets to a bunch of people. What do you call that? In fact, I'll give you one hint. It's the name of maybe my favorite Christian band of all time, or it's at least in the top three to five. Prayer chain. It's prayer chain. You would call the church, and the church had a list of people, and they would call those people, and those people might call their friends. And all of a sudden, you got people praying all around you. Yes, Bethany Road, prayer chain. What? So here's the thing. You know, I look at it and I'm like, you know, that was a mechanism that people had to spread the news around about it, about something that was a need. That same idea can be used for getting information regarding events. And you can do it with a group of churches that come together to promote those ideas and to promote those events as they may deem fitting, which means you have to build actual relationships. That's way different and harder, more time. You're going to have to, you know, work at this. You're going to have to work at this. Wow, it's the sweat of the brow stuff. It's literally what God said we had to do in the world. Is there, how much sweat of the brow is it, other than just anxiety, when you ask somebody to like your page in hopes that they might see the event you're going to promote? What work is that? What is that? It's one of many tools. It's also mega weak. It's like mega wimpy. It's like the reverse muscle, you know, like those cartoons where they flex and the bottom of the muscle like sags really far down. Like that's what that is. But you go to that church, you make a contact. You're now connected and networked with somebody face to face. It gives you way more opportunity to be more effective in what you're doing. It's going to take your time. It's going to take your effort, your strategy, planning, foresight, ability to have hindsight, and the humility to admit limitations or when you may have been wrong. You're going to learn from other people. And you ain't going to talk past each other as much. And you're not gonna, you know, shoot blanks, man. Like if you sit there and you're on Facebook and you're on Twitter and you share something, how many times is it that you're like, well, it's the same old folks getting it. The same handful of people who like it. Same handful of people that share it. Because you're thinking it's going to go to a bunch of people and it doesn't. With this, you know who you're dealing with. There's no blanks here. Again, we're going to need to think of ideas regarding publication of things like books, because Amazon, dude, they're coming down hard, but you know, it's okay. Stop selling through Amazon. Be willing to take that heat. Look at all the saints who had to go down in the catacombs. If people are sitting there saying, oh, boo-hoo, my book's not on Amazon, screw Amazon, dude. They're satanic. You can have the most satanic bullcrap on Amazon. They're going to come after you for your traditional beliefs. Screw them. Why even go through them anymore? Why? Why not make better relationships with different independent publishers and say, look, am I going to get mega wealthy? Probably not. Am I going to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond? Possibly. Am I going to be able to get my work into the hands, whether it's video, whether it's audio, whether it's written text, whatever it is, that I can get it in the hands of communities of people that I'm really trying to get it to. Yes. Without the fear that some, technocratic monster, some wicked New World Order Tower of Babel monster is going to censor your stuff and make it so that you can't share it because you have the audacity to say that boys are boys and girls are girls, as an example, by the way. What do? These are things, it's like, we sit there and we feel like we're so helpless. We're helpless because we put ourselves in chains. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying that I didn't put myself in chains. I put my hands under my rump, right? I'm sitting there, put my hands there, and I'm like, wait a second, what am I doing? I'm doing this, look, Mom, no hands. Yeah, I'm pretty good at it. Wow, that's great. This guy's maybe remarkable. It's remarkable, man. This guy does it every day. And it's like off the cuff, man. A talent, I guess, yeah. But I got to hone it in. Like Sheree said, man. I don't want to, it's one thing to be just shooting wild, like that. It's another thing to be that sniper, blam, 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 blam. Hitting that target every time. And you know what? It's so fitting, by the way, because I have my medal from the Navy. Expert. I know what it means to hit a target. And I know what it means to miss a target like crazy. Because when I first started, I didn't realize that I was left eye dominant, but shooting right-handed. So I'm like, over the gun, point it like this. And they're like, man, you're like way off. What's going on with that? I don't know. I'm seeing it where it's, I'm seeing it this way. And they say, well, look at us without the gun, but look at us straight on and show us. So I showed them, what I do. And they're like, you're left eye dominant. Use your right eye. From that point forward, expert, E. Right on top of that, I have 2 medals. Dope. Qualified on some big guns, too, in M60. That's a bad mamma jamma, by the way. So I know what it means to shoot, and I know what it means to shoot well, and I know what it means to have bullets flying all over the place. And when those bullets are flying all over the place, it might sound dope. It's going to sound good. You might hit the target sometimes. And the problem with it isn't the trigger. It's not the actual skill about shooting where you're seeing, because it's the fact that you're disoriented. Your aim is not correct because your vision is skewed because you're looking out of the wrong eye. Something as simple as that. And I say, that's how I feel about my work. I want to be that expert rifleman sitting there just boom, 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 boom. Pulling that stuff like cartoons, man, where you're like spelling your name in cursive with the bullet holes. I want that, man. And I believe I can, but it's going to take time. So tomorrow is going to be the last daily live show. Now I need your advice. And so I know there's a little bit of a delay on this, and so I want to go ahead and say it and then give it time so that those who are here, because look, truth is, a lot of the regulars, I see you here now. I know you're here. And I want your advice. I'll put out a poll too. I'll put it on Telegram. I'll put it on Facebook, right? Those are the primary places people follow. I'll do something on YouTube. Maybe I'll post the video and say a poll for the future of the show or something. In that way it can go. But the idea is, what I want to know is this. The network believes that the best time, according to the numbers, that the best time to do a show, if we did it once a week, and that I'd be making other things all throughout the week. I'm not slowing down. I'm speeding up. I'm just making room for multiple lanes, okay? That's all I'm doing. Instead of all these eggs in one basket, I'm starting to spread these things out, and we're marching on in many, many different ways. So, but as for this particular thing, if it was one day a week, what day and time? Because the network says Saturday night at 8. I've already had some kickback on that, though, and people are like, well, you know, what about people's social life? How are they gonna possibly, you know, and what about yours, Jeremiah? I'm like, you believe I have one. I'm not the kind of guy. Like I said, I'm not joking when I say that, you know, my life is kind of, hey, man, I'm going to go hang with the boys. And you're like, well, who's that? And you're like, you know, Aristotle and Aquinas and stuff. Augustine and Anselm. I'm going to go and check those guys out. Ambrose. A lot of A's. Athanasius. A lot of A's. But it's true. It's true. And so the thing is, what I want to know is if you, number one, day or night. Number two, weekend or weekday. Because if you want to know my opinion, what I would do, it would be Monday morning. It would be to start your week this way. That you start your week, you have church, and then you have your work week the next day. And that next day, man, you are on like Donkey Kong, right? Pedal to the metal, high octane, straight to the dome with the coffee, howling at the sun with the wolf pack to get you through, to get you pumped and prepared every week. And it would probably be longer. And we'd probably have time to schedule a bunch of guests and stuff because it would be me having to go reach out. I have to do all that. So that's even more time. You know what I'm saying? So like to have guests on, I have to be able to reach out, to connect with them when the show's over and stuff, to have them on, to set up the template and do different things. And having it spread out, that makes it way easier to do. Way easier to do. So the format will be a little bit different, but you'll have the basic structure and a lot of the flow of this show. So as you're putting that together, your idea about what day and what time, and I know this is like really casual. This is a really casual show today. I'm just kind of going with it, and I still have to show because I want to get back to what started this, and you can see my agenda kind of like yesterday when I showed the video talking about if you see me and I've lost weight, now you know why. If you read my book and you see it in the library, now you know why. You know, all these different things, now you know why. None of that happened, and now you know why. Now you know why. And one of those things that did not happen, and you're going to chuckle maybe when you hear my original description of the website and my original description of what I wanted to do and where I'm going now. As I said, back to the roots, baby. Back to the roots. Because as I am accepting this social media, this cataclysmic event of a social media death, when that happens to me and I'm splattered all over the universe, I said we're going to go deep down in the grave of the ground and we're going to provide nutrients and roots to life that will emerge. In season, out of season. Life that emerges. Vegetation. Firs. Beautiful trees. Redwood trees. Flowers. Aromatic. And that's what we're going to do. So we're getting back to the roots right now. We're getting back to saying what's the nutrients that the people need. We're getting back to say what's in season and out of season, what's good all year round for generations and generations to come, because that's what we're going to focus on. We ain't no flash in the pan crap. None of you guys are a flash in the pan. I'm not a flash in the pan. And we ain't going to be playing that game. We're going to sit there and say what we're doing is laying the groundwork for generations to come in the advancement of Christ the King in this world. Period. Bottom line. End of story. Over, son. It's over. It is over, man. And that's why you got to be pumped. And that's why you cannot be afraid. Man. So, all right, let's see here. Let's see. It's not always about money. Sometimes it's about your sanity. That's true. And here's the thing. By the looks of the amount of money we make here, it has never been about the money. Maybe it should be a little bit more. I should make certain decisions that will ensure that there is some money coming in, because it's time and it's work. Okay? And it's work. And it's how I send my kids to school and, providing food and other stuff. Like there's a lot that goes into that. But at the same time, my emphasis has never, ever been to the detriment, to the frustration of the network. The Grand Poobah, okay, Jonathan, he's always talking about numbers, and you can do this for numbers, and this is going to bring in more people and more traffic. And I'm the guy that's like, I just want to make the best art, dude. He's like, he's probably beating his head. You got to have both, though, right? You got to have both. So he's doing his job, I'm doing mine, and sometimes, you know, you got to figure out how to fuse those to make it a synergy. Yeah, David says, stop talking and get to work on that novel. I'm now craving to read. Just saying, dude, believe me, that's what we're doing. So the everyday talky talk, jabby jab, having fun, everything, that's going to be limited to one day, and every other day, there's none. In fact, I'm going to get back to that idea that I originally had of any social media post that I have are dispatches like St. Francis de Sales that says, I'm going to write them by hand. I'm going to write them by hand and share them as pictures. And so people will be able to read the notes. They'll be able to read my ideas. They'll be able to see the art and things like that. Just even practice stuff that I'm doing. And we're going to start taking pictures with the actual camera. Because right now, we have a really, really great camera. But it sits here every day because we don't want to have to reset everything up. I'm like, you know, we take great pictures. I want to take professional pictures, man. My grandmother is one of the things she did. She was a photographer. And she was at the Battle Creek Art Center. She had her stuff all over the place. I have one of her art pieces in the house. My cousin Derek's got a bunch. Kind of upsets me a little bit. I wish I had more. So, okay. Let's see. Phil says, Bishop James Connolly of Lincoln, Nebraska was converted to the Catholic faith through the Great Books program at the University of Kansas. Dude, it's true. It's true. You know, and I didn't know that, by the way, about James Connolly. I didn't know that. But I know that these great books that when people read them, I had not read Homer, for example, until like 2 years ago. Never. I had not read Dante until like 3 years ago. And when I read it, I was so moved and overwhelmed. It was challenging at first because it's not modern style. You have to get used, especially Dante. I mean, you're talking. What is it, man? What do they call that? Is it Tirsa Rima? I'm probably hacking it to pieces, like I was with Agnus Dei. So, like, I'm calling it Agnes Dei. So, like, probably hacking it to pieces. But the rhyme scheme and the syllable count, all that. I mean, you're talking. That's tough. It takes some training to get used to. There's no other point of reference, really. And so he's the master of it, though. And so, but reading it, man, I'll tell you, so moved by that. And I'm almost done with the Divine Comedy right now. So I've already read Inferno. I've already read Purgatorio. I am now on Paradiso, and it's just so powerful. It's so powerful. I mean, it's life changing. And to read the Iliad, life changing. Loved it. I started reading the Oedipus cycle. Okay, started reading that, Sophocles. Absolutely loved it. I couldn't put it down. And so I got into that. Aeschylus, man. You want to talk about, I really like reading Aeschylus, to be honest. And so all of them, man. I started reading these classics. I started reading a little bit of Milton. I haven't, but I have the book. I've got, in fact, a big book of a lot of the writings from Milton. And so Shakespeare, reading poetry in general. And getting back to the great books and getting back to the great ideas that people had. I've been reading Marcus Aurelius, his Meditations. Some of it's a little voodoo-like, It's a little bit like you said, man, you published that? Did you have an editor? Like, you needed an editor, bro. You needed an editor. Because that guy might have been like, the logic here is suffering badly. But at the same time, a lot of it is fantastic. A lot of it's just absolutely amazing. Timeless stuff, by the way. All right. R.C. Sproul is brilliant. I agree. Yeah, a brilliant guy. You said you'd love to see a show on metaphysics. This is what I'm saying, man. This is what I'm saying. Like, it's think of the potential. Just think of it for a moment. Think to yourself, like, how many things could somebody do? How many different topics could people do? They could do a bazillion of them. They could do a bazillion topics. I want to do ones on the entire devout life, man. I want to do ones on the entire book enthusiasm. I want to do all that stuff. It's the way we got to do it. I want to do stuff on books on political economy. right? The national economy. You got Heinrich Pesch and stuff. I want to do books on who owns America and the rebel agrarians, the 12 Southerners. I want to do stuff about their books. I want to do stuff on trade. I want to do stuff on media. I want to do stuff on amusing ourselves to death. I want to have a whole bunch of stuff, and not all video, but I want to be able to do lectures. Man, I missed a chalkboard, by the way. I'm going old school. Big time. Big time, dude. And for some reason, it's like repeating a lot of the exact same comments. And I don't know what that's all about. It's kind of a weird, funky thing. Yeah, because it's still doing it right now. Yeah, sometimes about your sanity. I've seen it like a bazillion times. It says, man's knowledge will double daily by 2023 because of AI. It's kind of an interesting thing to say that, because I people, the idea of how much knowledge can we have before we have overload, like empathy overload, for example. Like in total, yes. It's a fascinating thing. And that's what I'm saying too, is that the more this happens, the more you can actually talk about. Dolores says, I don't recognize that part of the Catholic religion is valid. Well, are you like a pope or something? What are you? What are you, Dolores? What are you talking about anyway? You said it's taken a wild turn with Trump and become as crazy as Trumpers. Dude, what are you, Dolores? Are you one of those, Corona Joe people? Are you one of those, it's okay to cut little 8-year-olds' wieners off? Is that what you are? Are you down with the idea? Maybe you're not. Maybe you're one of those who voted for, an obscure third party with an Amish guy and stuff. Maybe you did that. I don't know. I love Pope Francis and will only follow that sane part of the church. Again, where they're talking about, putting pee-pee and poo-poo. Is that what you're talking about? What are you talking about exactly? That we need to be all-encompassing? Are you literally, in Dolores, what is it? Gastelum? Yeah, I don't even know if you're real. But sadly, half of my beautiful church has gone crazy. You know what? It's kind of weird because the modern church you're talking about doesn't even understand the concept of beauty. That's why all the priests are wearing these ridiculous, they look like window drapes from the 70s. It looks like those houses of the future from Ren and Stimpy. The mask, all their stuff, it's so low brow. All of their stuff, they're so far behind, even on music. They're so far behind, it is pathetic to sit there and say, oh, look at the grandeur. Look at the majesty and the feeling and the images of the transcendent all throughout architecture, all throughout time in the Catholic Church. And then look at the modern crap. Say, look, dude, is this like a roller skating party? No offense, but, to roller skating. But give me a break, dude. What is this crap? Kumbaya nonsense? It's a joke. There's a reason why the numbers keep plummeting down and down and down. And you want to follow the way of the Episcopalian Church? That's some ignorant crap. I'm sorry, Dolores, but you don't know. In fact, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't even understand. And not only, look, maybe you've never heard of modernism. Maybe you've never heard of modernist art. If you want to know about modernist art, remember back to all of those felt boards that you used during the Sunday school program, right? So you're teaching the kids about Jonah and the whale, and you're using the felt board crap, or you're using the banners that are that thick kind of frumpy material, and it's got a really generic looking sparrow kind of thing and words that are blocky and stuff, and they just say little slogans and they put them up periodically throughout the year. That's great, I guess. It doesn't leave anything to the imagination, and it's kind of crazy. You ask somebody who studies art history and you say, what is that crap? Like, what theory of art is that stuff rooted in? Oh, it's the modernist theory. It's modernist. And it's funny because the person I was talking to said it's actually a real failure of a movement in the history of art, and it's more of a political statement. And the truth is, the main places that do it now, are churches and stuff. That's pathetic. It's pathetic. Music sucks. Art sucks. Style sucks. Reverence, not there. Solemnity, not there. Transcendence, not there. Authority, not there. Run by a bunch of freaking ladies on the parish council. Give me a break. And no offense, but you want to make our church into the Episcopalian church? You've just got yourself an enemy, girl. Take that over to the church across the street with Mother Joy. Go to Mother Joy if you want that. You want to get in the world of, in the name of the parent and of the child and of the magical presence. You want to get into that world? You got an enemy. Because that's termites. That's actually wickedness inside of our church. It's not, I don't tolerate it. Sorry to tell you. And sorry to spend so much time dragging you through the dirt. But you want to come against Trumpers. Look, you're opening yourself up to the idea that you're totally into, globo homo crap. Pee-pee and poo-poo crap. Video game in the brain, we should cut little Billy's Willie because he thinks that maybe he's a girl. Or take the breasts out of little Sally because she is a tomboy and likes to catch frogs. Give me a break. Give me a break. Oh, man. 70 said, you are so many in one body. Look, it's true. It's true. Got a lot, man. Got a lot going on at one time, right? A lot of ways that I can use these gifts and talents, and they got to be honed in. It's got to be the Megazord. It's got to be the Megazord. Okay? This show, not the show. The Daily Show you will forever be trapped in this space that says that the Daily Show that went on for 5 months or whatever, that Daily Show, you were part of something big that basically gave birth to something that's going to go in so many different directions all at one time with the power of a Megazord. Do, like a transformer. Bam! Yeah, man. Let's see here. Again, it's got all these weird things here. Okay, so people are saying right here, Jeremiah, I put 10K into GameStop stock. Did you really, bro? You said you're going to, yes, dude. Are you serious, by the way? I was going to talk about that a little bit. I'm not going to do it, though. I'll probably share something on Telegram about it because some people are able to describe it much better and more hilariously than I can. Because it's genius, by the way. It's genius, by the way. Absolutely love it. Phil says, how about Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m.? I can't do 3 days, bro. Not doing 3 days. No. Not doing 3. I'm doing 1. I'm doing 1 day. That's it. Because I'm going to, and there will be videos too, by the way, through time. So you're going to have to, you have to at this point. You absolutely have to. If you love the show and you love tuning in, you're like, oh no, he's gone. Stop saying I'm gone. Stop. Why would I do that? Why would I leave something that's great to go back to something that's not as good? What's the point of that? I'm going somewhere where I'm saying, you want to see the best I got? You want to see the best we can do? You want to see it honed in and harnessed like a stallion with a bit in its mouth? And you want to ride that bugger into the sunset? You want to do that with me? Paleocratdiaries.com. You got to do it because now I'm not going to be hours and hours every single day trying to, conjure up the magic to do the show. It's just the way it is. So pick one of those days. 9 a.m. I'm still down. Mountain Standard Time. It's a weird time zone, bro. Who does Mountain Standard? I don't know about that. Let's see. Just the reference to Mountain Standard. I know why you're doing it, though. You're good, buddy. Stephanie says, any day during the week, but I would go evenings, 7 p.m. Go evenings. Wilhelm says, go evenings and delve into NRX and Mench's Moldbug. Dude, I'm down. I'm down with that. You'll get a ton of viewers. I am down with that. I actually rather enjoy it. I watched the distributist talk to him or talk about him. And did he interview him or just talk about him or both? Yeah. Definitely a cool thing. I'm down with talking about that. What's the news about GameStop? Yeah, you got to go to people in the comments. It's what is it, man? Short stocks, that kind of thing. The short squeeze. They're basically, they're basically tanking billionaires right now. They're tanking the everyday folks, man. Everyday folks are jumping on board and tanking billionaire hedge fund managers who make gobs of profit off of tanking and, crushing other businesses, off of borrowed stocks. It's all sorts of funky, man. All sorts of funky. Tucker Carlson talked about it. Let's see. How about, okay, same thing. How money was it? Okay, so, man, it does, I don't know. There's got to be something wrong here because I'm getting the exact same thing on, like, all these different channels. All these different channels. Let's see. NPR had a story titled, How Biden Will Save the Catholic Church from the Right. It ran on Newsmax yesterday. Any comments? The church is neither left nor right. That's a pitfall of the nationalist right within the Catholic Church, is to view the church as a politically partisan styled thing, or that it's uniquely on the right. Traditionalism does not necessarily equal the political right. I know that's weird to say, especially when you're talking European brands of traditionalism, the roots of traditionalism, rather than kind of an American conservatism, stuff like that. At the same time, when they're talking about that and saying stuff like that, and that these Catholics that he's put in office, that was the message of our priest when Biden became president, was that we are in a very precarious situation because American people and those around the world are going to be looking at him and the Catholics he's put into his administration, that is what Catholicism is. And Pope Francis doesn't make that tough. It doesn't make that a tough sell, does he? They're all great resetters. So here we go. Somebody said here, not much good comes from modernity, but how can it be avoided by the masses? Well, it depends. You can't avoid it completely. And I would make a difference between modernity and modernism. Modernity. I don't even like the phrase modernity, to be frank with you. I don't like that phrase for the same reason that Oswald Spengler doesn't like the phrase. The breaking it down into antiquity and then after that to medieval, and after that to modernity. You sit there and you say it's this concept of progress and civilizational progress that has reached us finally, guys. It has reached us with all of our really ugly streets filled with signs and commercialism and materialism and naturalism and atheism and scientism and abortion and everything else, feminism. It's finally reached the pinnacle of us. And at the pinnacle, imagine this. How weird is that? That at the pinnacle of it all, when it finally reached the divine evolution, it got to the place where we started out just a bunch of dummies and gradually made our way to the brilliant people mounting down a bunch of KFC and marshmallows and KFC on a donut while watching themselves some memes on YouTube, getting all gross, getting fat and fast, right? Getting fat super fast that you can freaking hear it. Modernity. We're modern times, and then it causes the weirdness of saying postmodern. We should have used different phrases. It's not too late. You can begin to reconceptualize it, because we will be forced to anyway. Because it doesn't make sense for anything from here on out to not be considered modern if we've set it up in such a way that is ancient, medieval, and modern. You can say postmodern, but then it's just going to sound tacky. Because then where's it going to go from there? And that's where people are like, well, we're at the end of everything. And they get all apocalyptic because they bought into these really strange and curious ideas regarding materialism, rationalism, and progress. Yeah. Kind of weird. Episcopalian Church website advertises for gay men and transsexuals for clergy. Yeah, dude, totally. That's what I'm saying. In these dummies like Dolores, no offense. Well, no, a little bit of offense. She's kind of an idiot, to be honest. But like, the thing is that if you are saying, look, we need to go the way of, James Martin, Father James Martin, and, all of the liberals over there in Germany and such, and you talk that way, okay, you don't realize that other churches, quote unquote, have tried that before. Go look, see how it works out for them. Is the United Church of Christ booming? Let me know. Get back with me on that one. How about the Episcopalian Church? Oh, yeah, man, they're growing by leaps and bounds. Give me a break. Presbyterian USA, oh, yeah, really rocking out. Really making strides. Give me a break. And if they say, yeah, but you know what? It wasn't tried by us. And you're like, yeah, so you learn nothing from history, you dumb idiot. That's why they're actually dangerous, those people. They're dangerous. Somebody put in another 9,000? How are you even getting all this money, homie? And why haven't you been funding me? You need to be my bankrolling buddy. What are you doing, dude? You're like, oh, I get them on the cheap. So cheap, it's free. It's free, buddy. Come on, man. Saturday after 7 would be great. Another person says that. Wednesday or Friday. Okay, it's back to that thing. Yeah. Let's see. What the HE double hockey sticks? I take a few days of medical treatment and I tune in, and you're talking about changing the show. See, yep, you were gone from medical treatment? Dude, I was worried about you. I was sad, and I actually made a video that was because I did that one where it was joking with you, and I did the bleeding right there of the Wolfpack song. And we're gonna do the Wolfpack song here in a second. I'm sorry that this is real casual, laid back. We haven't talked about any news. It's just been whatever. It's just been whatever. So, but we're going to get to a part here where I want to share a couple of these throwbacks because I'm actually preparing for tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be the last day of the Daily Show. That's it. And you got to go back and you got to learn why. Yesterday, I explained why. The episode yesterday was dope. In fact, if you've missed a couple weeks, and I worried, man. I even said it on one of the super shows where I was like, dude, I felt really badly because I'm like, he's been around long enough. He should know I'm kidding. He should know I'm kidding. And I told him I loved him, like I was having fun. I'm not dogging him. So you spooked me, dude. You spooked me, CF. And you were in the hospital. Why don't you tell us, man? We or whatever. Medical treatment. Well, you could have told us we'd be praying for you, buddy. We'd be praying for you. But yeah, we're changing the show because I got to write these books, dude. And I got to make DVDs. I got to do lectures. I got to do things that are going to be longer lasting and have a longer draw where people could go. They'd be timeless things. Timeless things. I want to make real productions, bro. Ranging from videos with philosophical, theological, sociological, cultural content, political economy, you name it, theology, all that stuff. I want to just crank that stuff out. I got a green screen for it and everything, dude. It's going to be great. It's going to be great, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so a lot of stuff with books, going to be writing. Going to be writing a lot. And not just about these topics, but writing even about poetry, prose, and speculative fiction. And I want to begin getting back into music. I play music. I write music. And so I don't write it. I create music, with different programs and stuff like that. But I also play guitar and sing. And so I want to do that. And there's a lot of things, and even art. I want to get involved in that. So to use all of my gifts and talents like a Megazord, dude, put it all together and say, I'm tired of the cheap trick. I'm tired of the flash in the pan. I'm tired of the drive-by. I need to really hone in and make this thing just rock out. Need to make it rock out. Oh, someone says they're proletariat, and I'm the one who drinks Fiji water. Dude, I drink Fiji water because somebody gave me Fiji water. You think I'm out there buying that? I'm not made of money, dude. I pretend I say I live in a castle. All right, look, we got to get going right now. We got to do the Wolfpack song. And again, I'm just grateful. I'm glad you guys are cool with this, that today it's just been talking. It's been talking about why we're going to do what we're going to do. It's already, man, we've been going for a while. But I want to show these videos. I know you're going to love them. One of them, the first one, I believe it's the first one, is the idea. Well, I don't know. I got to decide. I have one about my fear, love, or my fear, loathing, and love of confession. And I use 3 examples, and it's humorous and emotional. And then I've got one about my daughter, Samantha, her remarkable or spectacularly unfortunate life and death with childhood brain cancer, and how that led to our family coming back, and how that is the core that got us to the school, which is the core of why I do the show and why I have to make these changes. I have to. Someone says, I just want to listen to this on podcast. Short of that, I'd rather listen on Odyssey. The time doesn't matter much, but noon is nice. By the way, I don't know if you know this, all of the shows now at holyfaithmedia.com, if you go there, all of our shows are also made into podcasts. And I'll be doing more podcasts. I'll be doing more where I don't even have to turn on the camera. I just simply just crank on the audio and just talk for a little bit. And so there will still be a lot of media, but it's not going to consume every single day where I've got to study for hours and hours now. That's the difference. Okay. So, all right, we got it. We're moving on. So I'm gonna play this first, but before we do, you got to make sure. And we only have 2 more howls left there, CF. By the way, CF, did you hear the bleating? Did you hear that? The bleating that I did? I did it for you, dude. I did it for you. And I never saw you after that. I think I saw you like one time. I'm like, dude, what happened to this guy? Where'd he go? I was there. I'm like bleeding like crazy for you, buddy. I care about you, bud. I care about you. No, Justin Hale's the one that said he wants to listen on podcasts. Dude, yes, homie. I'm down. I'm glad to see you too, by the way. I didn't even know that was you. Your name got tucked in there, dude. I'm really happy. And I'll do that. Anything that I do, well, not anything. Some things that are done for video purposes will be intentionally done for video purposes, and other things that are meant for audio will be meant for audio, and that's how it'll be. So the various different things that I do are going to be done according to the mediums best suited for that. Okay, and so I'm going to diversify it, man. Diversify, as I said, dude. Going all over the place. So make sure you get your coffee right now. Oh, and you saw it. Okay, so you got to forgive me. We're going to be howling at the sun. And did you see the way I changed the wording? You need to look, man. I did it for you, brother. I did it for you, dude. So make sure you love the show. Share it with your friends. And again, thank you for just allowing today to be what it was. As I said, we've had a friend over. My wife's best friend, her dad died. So the last couple of days have been kind of crazy. And so in the time of making these decisions, and I'm really grateful that you've just allowed me today to just talk. I mean, I've had this up the whole time. I haven't shown one news story. And I know it's a little rambly. I know it. But, and tomorrow will not be. I'm going to try to make some special things for you guys for tomorrow. But I'm just glad that today's worked out the way it has. But it's throwback. And so we're going to go ahead and not just talk about the origin of the show and why we're doing it, but talk about what even predated that. What laid the groundwork for that? What laid the groundwork that led me to the place to do a novena that led me to the floor on top of a cross in a church, crying out to God to let me know what I needed to do? A powerful moment that I'll never forget, but one that I turned and walked away from, that I got distracted from. That all began with a conversion, and that began with the life and death of my firstborn daughter. So I'm actually going to show that first. And as I said, this is the first video that I did. So right after the Wolfpack song, we're going to go right into that, okay? This is the first video I did after 16 months, spiritual advisement, to say, look, that by a spiritual director, a spiritual direction for my life that said, get away from everything, get away from social media, no blogs, no podcasts, no AM/FM, no interviews, no forums, no debates, no nothing. You get away, you read the Bible as much as you can, you pray as much as you can, you spend your time with your family as much as you can, and you go to church as often as you possibly can. And after a year, it was like 320 something times, and I pushed it an extra 4 months. I was supposed to do it for an entire year. And I did. I did it for 16 months. And it was a powerful thing. And when I came out of it and I decided to make a video, and you'll see the progress that's been made even since that first video. You'll see the way that our show is set up and stuff, and how different it really is. And so we'll show that. So as soon as we get back from the Wolfpack song, As soon as that happens, we're going to do Paleocrat Diaries promotional, come back to the Wolfpack song, and then we're going to go right to the Throwback Thursday. I really hope you enjoy it. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the episode yesterday that I showed you. And I'll be in the comments, engaging with people in the comments. So if you want to communicate with me, just let me know. I'll be texting and everything off screen, but I'll hop in the comments. And I'm on all of them. I see all of them. And I can reply to you individually. And I'll try to get to as many as I possibly can. So I'm really grateful. I love you guys. On our second to last episode of the daily 5-day-a-week show known as Paleocrat Diaries. It will still be Paleocrat Diaries. We're going to 1 day a week, and tomorrow's going to be the last one. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to give it everything I got tomorrow. Okay, we're not going to be doing this, right? It's not going to be so soft. I got to save the energy. The caloric, I had to save that, the caloric investment. I'm going to be mounding down food today. I'm going to be sitting there mounding it down because tomorrow I'm going to come as a son of thunder. I want to leave you guys with a 5-day-a-week program that leaves you on the best possible note, the most powerful, long-lasting thing that says it's only just begun and we're going to march forward because we're going in more places than ever before. I made this decision, and I made it for a bazillion good reasons, and I believe every bit of it, and I would never do it if I didn't think it would be better for my family, better for the cause of the kingdom, and that altogether, the product that you receive, you'll be even happier with it, that it will be more insightful, more impactful, more empowering. We're going to rock the daylights out of this. Okay? So there we go. Love this video? What a coincidence. I do too. Now head on over to paleocratdiaries.com for more videos, blogs, book and movie reviews, even Team Tiny Dancer stuff. And don't forget to check out our new members and services pages. It's how I pay for my kids to attend Catholic school. Until next time, memento mori. All right, you got to get that cup of coffee. We're going to rock out Thursday, January 28th. And you've got to give it everything you got. Thought, word, deed, Christ the King, everything you got. Now! The sun, S-O-N, come on! Come on, right now! Resolve, deep inside, no matter what, arms outstretched. You're a servant to the King, and we're marching on! Empowered, inspired, better than ever, the best you could ever be, just as God made you, me. Here we go. Here we go. You're gonna rock today. You're gonna rock today. I'm gonna rock today. We are gonna do amazing because Christ is within us. This ain't no joke, son. This ain't no joke, sister. We're gonna rock out. I can hear my little dude upstairs. You know how awesome it is, by the way, to have my son dancing around, howling at the sun, excited, smiling, beaming, excited. To know all of you, to see those faces, come on. Look, this is for you, Johnny. What do I always say? Johnny Q and Sally Sue. This is for you. We're doing it, man. Marching on, expanding our horizons like the ever-expanding universe. That's the symbol of our civilization, bro. We can see it in the angels of the architecture. You can see it in the cathedrals, dude. Now, this first video, I have to warn you, okay? I have to warn you, it's a powerful video. It's a powerful video, and it's actually made, I made it on the last night of a fundraiser for Sacred Heart Academy in Grand Rapids, where my kids go. I didn't realize that the fundraiser had been going on. I saw people making videos. I was divided. I didn't know. I'm like, I haven't made a video or done anything on social media in like 16 months. I think I posted like 3 things. And they were always stuff that were actually important, like things that were relevant, that more like announcements and stuff. And so this was the first time, and you'll see the difference in style, even the lighting. The camera was with my phone. I had no microphone, so it was kind of, the audio was different. And you can see the amount of time that I've invested into making this better. And you got to just know it's only going to get better now and in the future. And so you can see the line and say, look at the amazing strides that Jeremiah and this show and this family, look at the strides. Look at the investment. Look at the mastery of this art, of what he's doing, and taking that now and saying, instead of shooting it in every direction, we're going to bring it back in again. We're going to bring that bugger back in. It's going to be like a firework into all the universe. And one that just doesn't stop. It's going to be a star exploding in the galaxy. It's going to be amazing. The supernova. Supernova, man. Stardust everywhere. Super, super pumped. So, all right, here we go. I'm going to show the first one. It's about the conversion. Again, if you are in a public place, you may want to do some breathing to focus, because you might cry. It's fun. It's cute. It's got pictures, and you're going to learn about our story more than you ever have on this show. So here you go. Here's the video that started it all. Hello, my name is Jeremiah Bannister. I haven't made a video in a long time, but I have a really, really massive, huge, honkin', super duper big request for you. But before I ask you this huge request, I want to tell you a quick story. It all kind of started back in 2017, and that was the year that my children changed my life. We'd gone through some really rough times. In fact, for about a year and a half prior to that, we lost our daughter, our firstborn, Samantha, to a really rare and aggressive kind of cancer called an anaplastic astrocytoma. She lived an amazing life. She was 10 years old when she was diagnosed, and she died when she was 12. And she was a powerful girl, right? She had an amazing motto of never give up and keep on smiling, and she influenced tons of people, especially us. But it was really difficult losing her, and I can't even begin to tell you the changes that happen in the life of a father and a mother and brothers and sisters, a whole family, and social network even, when something like that happens. But it was massive, and it affected us in a lot of ways. And on top of all of those things, we were in a weird position, culturally even, as a family, because we had left the church in late 2010 or early 2011. We had left the Catholic Church, and we lived as unbelievers for a number of years, in fact. But we still retained, as a family, we retained conservative and even traditional values. And so we found ourselves at a deficit, and it was really difficult, right? It's a very difficult thing to maintain and to navigate. But it wasn't just emotional for me, and I wasn't the only person going through all these changes. My kids were also going through an extraordinary number of changes. And as they were going through these changes, they began asking questions. And their questions were rather interesting. My daughter, one day, I think she's playing Legos or Duplos or something, maybe Barbies, and she asked me, she said, "Hey, Papa, who built the builders?" And I'm thinking, is she talking about the Lego pieces or whatever? What is she talking about? And she said, no, the builders of the universe. So she's asking this question in a childlike way, but she's asking about the origin of life. And then weeks later, probably about 2 weeks later, my son Athanasius, he's now the eldest that remains in the family, and Athanasius came. And we got in this kind of back and forth having to do with how you treat your parents. He disrespected Mama, and so we were talking about honoring your mother and father. And he started bringing up questions about standards of morality. Why do I need to believe that? What is the reason for that? Who says I need to believe this? I know that's what you think is good, or what if I don't think this is good, or what if I think I'm right? Do I have to do certain things? And who says I have to do those things? Is it just their opinion? These are questions of morality, ethics, right? Difficult things to talk about. And lastly, our middle child, Ambrose, he's outside playing puppets. And he said, "Papa, I need to talk to you in private." I said, "Okay." So we went inside and went up to his room. He closed the door, and I sat on his bed. And he kind of takes a breath for a minute, and he says, "I pray." Now, we'd never prayed as a family, not since he'd been born. And so there was no way that he learned this from us. And I didn't know where he'd be learning it from. I was suspicious, though. Right? Where is he learning this? And I kind of joked with him about it, almost in a demeaning way a little bit. I said, well, does God, like, talk to you? And I thought in my heart in a way that, well, he's just going to think, I'm just talking about myself, nothing's happening, I'm going to stop. But his answer surprised me. He paused, and he looked down, and he kind of shuffled his little feet. And then he looked back at me, and he says, no. He said, it's not like God's talking in my ear or anything, but I still think it's the right thing to do. It was this real existential moment for me. It was so crazy. The place that they put me in, I started wondering if they were kind of conspiring with each other, right? Talking in secret, little whispers against Papa. And I got mad. I called family meeting right away. Time out! And I yelled, and everybody's freaking out. Whoa! And we go downstairs. I'm accusing each one of them. I'm pointing at them, and I'm grilling them. But they didn't conspire. There were no whispers between each other. It was independent. And they came to me independently, even privately, spontaneously, in fact. Some of the stuff just had to do with whatever happened to be in the moment. And as we were talking about it, Ambrose asks me this question that really did change the direction of our family ever since. He said, Papa, are we Catholic? Now, for those who may not realize this, my children, with the exception of Samantha, who passed away, my children are named after doctors of the church. So not just saints, they're like mega saints. And so we talked to them and said, well, you know, we're unbelievers. We don't go to church. We don't believe in God. We haven't gone in a long time. But yes, you're named after them. And it was around Christmas time, and we'd already put up some of our ornamentation around the house. And every year, even when we weren't going to church, Ambrose's godmother would send us a nativity piece, and just a new thing to add. And we'd always put it up. And that little light went off in his head, and he said, well, you know, maybe we can talk to my godmother, and we can go to church with her. And we thought we could get out of this. I thought that the godmother lived in Kalamazoo, where we used to live when we went to church at the same church as her. So we called her. And lo and behold, she moved to Grand Rapids. And so she lives in the same town as we do. And so there was no getting around this. She went to a local church. So we went. And again, lo and behold, as the procession begins and everything for the Christmas vigil, and then the priest walks by. And it's the priest we had when we were Catholic back in 2010. So it's the same guy. He's now stationed at a parish in Grand Rapids. So all of this stuff, I mean, it was wild. And there was a lot to think about that night. You know, I even talked to the priest afterward, and he said, welcome home, prodigal son. I wasn't even back in my heart yet. Okay? I was still in this weird place in my life. Okay? But we never stopped going. And we decided during that time that we heard they had daily mass, and so we decided to go. So we went to a weekday mass in the morning, and we saw that it was packed with these kids, tons of them. And they were extremely devout, pious kids, and super sharp in those uniforms. And best uniforms are in Grand Rapids, hands down, period. Right? And our kids began looking at that, and they were interested to know more. So we investigated, and we were amazed at what we found. We found a school that learns Latin from the earliest grades all the way through to the end. And in fact, we were there for their award ceremony, and we saw a whole bunch of kids getting awards, nationally recognized for the accomplishments that they've done. The school has been awarded nationally. They say the Pledge of Allegiance every single day. They take entire courses that are created to learn about government. And they begin with Plato. And on top of that, they have courses on economics. And you just don't see this very often. They read books like Chronicles of Narnia and Homer's Odyssey. They read plays by William Shakespeare. They read Dante's Inferno. In fact, Athen just read this year, he just read Beowulf, and they had to answer at the end of the class. They had to answer a question with three answers for yes and 3 answers for no. And the question was, did Beowulf die an honorable death? And they had to be prepared to stand up in class and to debate this. They put together these plays that a lot of times schools will do plays and they're kind of meant for younger people. These ones are long. Right? They did Les Mis last year at the Wealthy Theater, and this year Ambrose and I got to go see the students perform My Fair Lady, and it was remarkable. But what got me the most with all of this, and I mean, each one of those things I said, I could go on for a long time. There's a lot more about this school: art, music, science, math, all of it. Amazing. They write in cursive every day, for crying out loud, okay? This is not your normal school. But what got me the most is Mass every single morning. Every single morning, those kids are at Mass. That's how they start their day. It is centered around Christ. It is centered around the cross. It is centered around the altar. It is centered around the scriptures. It is centered around the preaching of the word in a homily. It is centered on this. But I went to Mass with them one morning. And after communion, I'm sitting there and I'm praying. I'm kneeling down and my eyes are closed. And I don't even realize it. But Ambrose and Teresa had walked around the back. And they were lined up with their class to sing. And with my eyes closed, all of a sudden, I heard them start to sing. It was Ave Maria. And I listened, and it was unlike any other kid singing I'd ever heard. I'm sure that all of you have heard kids sing a bazillion times. We all know what kids sound like when they sing. And yet, at this place, it was so heavenly. They focus so much. And we have nuns at the school, right? These are some old school black and white 1940s and 50s nuns. I mean, it's, black and white era stuff. They got the long black and the white top that makes it go up high and everything, the veil. And they're awesome. They are amazing. But one of the nuns, she teaches the kids how to sing, and she's so good at it with teaching them pitch and key. But it was so perfect, and I just wept. I wept, and I thought back. I thought back to my daughter, who died. I thought back to Teresa, who asked me who built the builders, and now she recites the creed, that she believes in God as a creator of all things, visible and invisible, everything that was made. To my son, Athanasius, who asked questions about what we should believe and why do we believe what we believe and what's right and what's wrong and who says so. And now he studies the catechism. He goes to penance. He does examination of conscience. He evaluates his life as a young man. And Ambrose, who secretly told me that he prayed. He told me another secret later. And he told me, because they've learned to serve at the Mass, and they look really cool in their little vestments. They even got to help out Father Sirico when our son Lucian was baptized. But at Corpus Christi, there's a procession going outside. And you walk around the streets, and they ring bells, and you sing songs, and there's girls throwing flower petals all over the sidewalk. It's a beautiful event. And you periodically will kneel down and you'll do different prayers. And after one of those were done, my son looks over at me. And he says, "Papa, church is my favorite place in all of the world to be." And I said, "I'm glad to hear that." And he goes, "Well, I kind of feel like maybe one day God will want me to be a priest so that I can pray in the church all the time." And I told him, I said, "The world needs you. The world needs you big time.
because I did. Sacred Heart makes a lot of little Ambroses. God uses Sacred Heart to form them, to keep that flame within them burning bright, to equip them for what they're going to be in their lives, whatever that may be. And I'm so grateful, and that's why I'm telling you this. And this is the big super duper huge honkin' request. I want to invite you to share this with your friends, share this with your family, pray about it, think about it. And if Sacred Heart and what you've heard about Sacred Heart, if it sounds like the kind of place that you want to see not just survive, but thrive, consider making a donation. Thank you so much. I hope to speak with you in the comment section and share this far and wide, everybody. It means a lot to us. Thank you.
So, okay. That is what started all this. That experience. I can't even begin to tell you what it is like to find out that your daughter has brain cancer. Well, I can. But I've learned that saying it over a microphone ends up sounding like a blubbery mess. I end up crying my brains out. And I'd rather cry my brains out over a keyboard. I'm 85% of the way through right now. That book will be done. It is my mission. And to go back and to watch that, I watched it this morning. I edited the part out at the end. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening. And I said, it drove home more and more and more. I have my kids down here at the end of the show when they're home from school like they were yesterday. I have them down. And they salute with me. And they say the mantra, you know, never give up, keep on smiling, memento mori. And they salute you guys. You mean a lot to them. But the thing is, when I went back and I listened to that, it drove home the very reason why I do what I do, why I wake up, why I push so hard. Beyond the most obvious, the salvation of my own soul. I'm going to stand before God one day. But I'm going to stand before God not only as an individual, but as a husband and as a father, as a citizen, as someone who has been given gifts and talents, and I'm going to account for those things that I have and have not done. And when I watched this video this morning, and it had been a long time, it's tough for me to watch. All sorts of emotions build up. But the truth is, when I watched it, it drove home again. It brought me back to the roots of everything that I'm doing right now. And it said, Jeremiah, this is what it's about. This is why you give your best. It's a live show, true. It's a flash in the pan, it's true. It's here today, gone tomorrow, drive-by, blur, whatever you want to say, totally true. But it's why, even in the blur, even in the drive-by, even in that flash in a pan, I'm giving it every single thing I've got. It's why every single day we do that Wolfpack song. I know some people are like, why are you howling like a wolf? And I'm like, because I'm sitting there, I'm howling to the sun, and I'm resolving every single day that no matter what, I'm going to give it everything I've got, everything I have, everything. Thought, word, deed, Christ the King for Team Tiny Dancer forever. Because like I said in the comments, during the video, I said, God used the tiny hands of 3 little children to grab a hold of me. And they pulled me free from the hellish fire and fury that raged in my heart following the death of my daughter. We are Team Tiny Dancer forever. Forever and ever and ever. And part of that is that no matter how hard it gets, that I give it all I got. My daughter, when she had cancer and she's dying, she's drawing pictures every day. She's writing in her journal. She's learning to write with the only hand anymore that worked. She's learning to walk again when they said she wouldn't. She learned to skate again when they said she wouldn't. And she smiled. She smiled and looked cancer and looked death in the face. And she smiled and she danced her way to the grave. And she left a trail. She blazed a trail for us. But if we look at it, we were there together. Sometimes putting her on our shoulders and she'd be saying that we helped to build that trail. And it's easy to get nostalgic and think that we just have to stick on that trail. And I say, no, take that good thing. Take those lessons. Take those core principles. Those things that form you and make you who you are right now, and use those things to be the best you every second of every day. Because you're awesome, by the way. You're freaking awesome, every one of you. God made you. You are special. Don't listen to the world. Don't listen to those who want to turn you in to some kind of an economic unit. You are a human created in the likeness and image of God. You are awesome, and I'm so proud that I know you. I am so honored that you listen. I'm so privileged to be your friend. And the truth is, these principles, these motivating things within our hearts and within our minds that work themselves out through our hands and feet, our actions and our words, all of these things, they drive us to a state of excellence. And say, if you're really giving all you've got, are you doing that? If you're throwing the pearls to the pigs, are you doing that? Are you doing that if you're not calculating and you sit down and you evaluate, that you examine your conscience, that you cry out to God and say, God, what'd you make me to do? And if he's told you to do it, and if you have done what it takes to listen and to beat down that door until he responds, to sit there and to knock and to knock and to knock until he replies, that if you hear that soft whisper, you need to do it with everything you've got. You've got one life. We know this. We have one life to live. And we're not here. God did not call us here so that we could stare at ourselves in the reflection of the river Styx. He did not do that. He did not create you so you could be a fat, lazy, ignorant slob sitting in front of a TV or in front of a screen all the time, seeing the little tidbits, the little candy, another piece of candy that social media gives you. We live in a world that hates you, and they hate you because they hated the God that saved you, the God that came down in flesh and that died for you, and that reached down and grabbed you from that pit, from the muck and the mire, and pulled you up, that put the Holy Ghost in you to animate you, to make you come alive like never before. You're superheroes to me. They use phrases more than conquerors. We're more than conquerors, man. You are superheroes to me. And you're unique. You're unique. You're the only you that anyone knows. And you're here for a specific purpose and a specific time, for specific encounters. And it's easy. Believe me, the last 4 months of my life, how many stories have I done that's like the redundancy of pointing out the obvious, that something is terribly, terribly, terribly wrong with the world, and that the world is dying all around us. It's on fire. And all I'm doing day after day is pointing and saying, look at the fire. Look at it rage all around you. And I finally got to the place where I said, we need to teach people how to put out fires. We need to teach people how to build walls that are not going to be burned down, that will stand the test of time to make monuments of ourselves, that in season, out of season, rain, snow, sleet, and shine, doesn't matter. That monument will remain. Because it's easy to fall into that blur. It's easy. The masses of people, the mankind, the masses. Think about how many people have died that you never knew their name. You never knew anything that they did. Here's the remarkable thing. God died for them nonetheless, all the same. God made them unique, all the same. And what I'm saying is that, you know what? The world may never know you. You may die in your obituary. Most of you don't know the man who died, my wife's best friend. He was a second dad to her, to my wife. She grew up and treated him like a father. When I found out he died, she came running up the stairs, weeping, lunging into my chest and telling me, Pete died, Pete died. You don't know Pete. You probably didn't read his obituary. You would have never known unless I told you. It's going to be true of you. It's going to be true of me. So what do we make that lasts? For me, it's my kids. I said that yesterday when Ambrose came downstairs. I said, this right here, that will last. That will go on. That is the monument. That is the footprint in space and time that shall remain. And compounded interest, more and more and more, compounding, transgenerational, building a trajectory, being part of that ride. We got the ticket, we're taking the ride. We need to tell these stories. We need to reach out. We need to be those little hands that pull people from the hell that they're in right now, because the world is burning down. The world is burning down all around us, and I'm tired of just simply pointing to all of the things and saying, watch the buildings burn. That's why we're making these decisions. That's why we're doing things that are timeless. How many people will ever care about the video that I did in the segment that I did talking about the fact that nobody loves Kamala's husband? That he's a goon. That it's a sad thing. Who cares? But talking about the devout life, how to raise children, how to work hard, how to pray, how to be to put yourself in a place to even be able to listen to that quiet whisper of God. And how to be determined that once you've accepted what God has for you, that you're not only aware, but you use that to move forward and be productive for the remainder of your life till your last breath. Not as a control freak or a workaholic, but as somebody who knows the burden that they bear. It's a great responsibility. And it's a pleasure. As much as it's difficult, it is a pleasure to carry the cross. Because we don't carry it alone. We cast our cares on Him. To sit there and say, we can do this. Because it's not us, it's Him through us. It's not Jeremiah. It's God through Jeremiah. But it's recognizing so many people, there's two extremes, man. There's one extreme that says it's just God. That they're just waiting for God. They're sitting around on their rear ends with their thumb up their butt, waiting for God to do something, and He's got a megaphone in their face and saying, I saved you. I gave you gifts. I gave you talents. You need to express and show the fruits of the Spirit in your life. You need to recognize that you were made for exactly this. Not another time. Don't lament that you weren't born at a different time. Be grateful you were born at all. Be grateful that you were born right now. And it's, by the way, it's wicked right now. Who wants to be born into this? I'll tell you who. I do. Because I was And God, I trust him. You want to talk about trust the plan? Don't give me Q. Give me God, the triune God. Give me the triune God, baby. I trust that plan. That plan doesn't let you down. There's no false predictions in that. There's no false hope that you're going to win and that somehow magically it's going to work. But it's also not the place where you got to focus on yourself. Some people sticking their thumbs up their butt. Some people sitting there racing around trying to control everything like a control freak and feeling that they're a failure if it doesn't work. Your will be done. God's will be done. But it's through us. He renewed us, a new spirit, new heart, new mind. We're leopards who couldn't change our spots. He did it. He did it. He's renewed the natural order. You're part of it. He incarnated. The incarnation matters. The centrality of that. It's why we kneel when we do the creed. That's why. That's why we kneel at the last gospel. Opening chapter of John. That's why. You know, it's like it's this thing. It's like this thing where we have to know that, but and this is why, and I'm not going to talk anymore about it because I got another video, and this one's actually a little bit longer. We're going to go a little longer today, but this one talks about confession, and this is where, and you can see it. I'm not just blowing hot air here. I'm telling you to realize that life-changing, transformative moment in our life where God used this spectacularly unfortunate life and death of my daughter, and the way that he used my children, the way that he used the events around us, the way that he used that year and 4 months of my life of going to church and focusing on him and praying my brains out and reading the Bible, and how he even used the place in my life where I was afraid, where I didn't know what I was doing, where I wasn't sure what direction I was going in or why, and what it took for me to get from that place of being redeemed to that place where redemption is working through me, renewing the natural order within me and in those things around me, those things that I touch. And it's true of you. God is going to use you. He's using you right now. Think of the people in your life and really think in real time, sit there and say, these people, we're surrounded by people who are lonely. We're surrounded by people who've lost the ability to talk to each other. And even if they could, they couldn't because they're told they got to stay 6 feet away with a mask on their face. They can't even see their neighbors smile anymore. And they're depressed out of their mind. They need Christ in you. They need you. They need me. And they need the best of who we are. None of this shatter shot crap. Honed in, sniper rifle ready. We need to be that person that sits there and knows, takes our time. Like that sniper way up in the tower in Saving Private Ryan, sitting there looking through the scope, knowing what he's doing. He trained for this. He knew it was risky. He knew he was in a tough place. He gets spotted, he's in trouble. But he put himself there. He's quoting the Psalms, kissing the cross, and doing what he was skilled to do. That's you. That's me. No more flailing around. Even we got to pick our fights better. We need to pick what we do better. We need to step back and say, instead of lashing out all the time and pointing to all the places burning down and complaining of all the wickedness around us, we know it's true. It's already there. We don't need to even deal with it. We know it's all there. We need to bring to that redemptive power of Jesus Christ that's already working through us as imperfect as we are, that work has begun. And part of that work is putting yourself on the line. And part of that is confessing. It's confessing, number one, you're a sinner. Confessing that you need direction. Confessing that it's not you, but it's him through you. Confessing that you will be held accountable for what you did and did not do. Confessing that Christ is king. So I want you to hear this. This is the next step for me where I want you to pay attention, because the two videos, the one from yesterday, where I talked about if you see me lose weight, if you see my book, if you see this, that you'll know, right, that I'm doing the right thing. You haven't seen that. I'm doing something okay. I'm not saying what I'm doing is wrong. What I'm saying is that it's not the best. It's not the best. And it's time I give it my best. That one, and you'll hear it in this too. You'll hear, I knew what my calling was, because I'd prayed. I cast myself before the Lord, and I listened. And I listened. But then I walked away, like Jonah. It's like, you know what you got to do, but you don't do it because whether it's fear of failure, all those things. And you know what? The one thing, if I say there's a lot of things that I'm grateful for this, but insofar as my calling and vocation is concerned, you want to know what was great about doing this daily show for 5 months now? You want to know what was great? The realization that I can do it. The realization that every single day that I'm pounding away at this idea that you never give up. And that you put everything on the line every day. No more fear. No more fear. Beat down that door in heaven. Give it all you got. Mind, word, deed, heart. And every day, every weekday for months and months now, pounding away, deeper and deeper inside of my own heart. So I hope you enjoy this. When we get back, we're going to wrap up the show, maybe do a couple of the comments. I'm really grateful, by the way. I love all you guys. And somebody said here, Katie Young said, you, sir, are my daily motivational preacher. I'm really grateful for that, Katie. I'm really grateful for that. And just to let you know, if you ever want me to go to a parish or a men's group or any group, right? Doesn't matter. I'll speak to a ladies group. I'll do that, And so we got a lot of ladies. You're a lady, right? A lot of ladies in the comments and stuff. Most of our viewers, interestingly enough. And so, but the thing is, no matter what it is, homeschool groups, private schools, no matter what, whatever club, group, church, doesn't matter. If you'd like me to come and speak, you can connect with us. It's under the services part on the top of the website at paleocratdiaries.com. It might just be paleocratdiaries.com/services. And that has how you can connect for interviews and stuff like that, but also speeches. And I described it yesterday. It's all on there. It would only cost whatever it costs, the cheapest possible way to get me to that place, right? So if I'm driving or a train or whatever, I don't need to get on a plane. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind even taking a bus. Doesn't bother me at all. To connect with real people in real time, real space and time, to meet face to face, to enjoy that time in their company. So the cost of the travel, I'd pay for my own food, everything else, and as long as there's in-kind donation, if people want a free will offering or whatever, and they like to donate that, then they can. And so, hold on a second. Uh-oh. And for some reason, it logged out. I don't know what that was all about. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm back. Okay. So the thing is that if you would like me to do that, make sure to go. You can email us, paleocratdiaries@gmail.com. So, all right, here we go. This is a really fun one. There's some really funny parts, and there's some emotional parts. Again, this is a really good one, and I think you'll really enjoy it. It's about my fear, or how did I describe it? My fear, loathing, and love of confession. Hello, everybody. This is Jeremiah Bannister of paleocratdiaries.com. Got a new video for you today, but before we proceed,
I have to make mention of the people who have become subscribers to PaleocratDiaries.com. I think maybe 6 or 7 who've become subscribers in the first week. You gotta start somewhere, and I started at 0. And so having 7 people, right, I'll take it. It's 1 a day. I was thinking, I got all this stuff. After the videos I shared last week, I had a lot of requests. People wanted me to talk about why I would disagree with feminism, or what's my beef with intersectionality, or my views on fake news and whether Trump is in fact a perpetuator of fake news and not a legitimate critic. But I thought about it, I said, I don't want to be a reactionary. I don't want this site, I don't want this channel to be simply responding. I don't want to be a response YouTuber. And there's a lot of those out there. I like some of them, but I don't want to be that. So I will talk about those things. In fact, I'm going to do a series on different books that pertain to issues that I just mentioned. And so my ideas and my beliefs will be fleshed out in those. So I thought, I want to do something about confession and how confession is scary. Not just confession in a religious sense, and we'll get to that, but confession in a broader sense. And I figured I'd start by confessing something a little bit, and that is that I'm terrified of heights. Right? I mean, totally terrified. I've tried climbing those walls that, help you to learn how to mountain climb and stuff like that. And I was really close. It's probably like 5 feet from this bell. You can climb up, and once you get to the top, there's a bell there. And I was about 5 feet away, and my legs were shaking like noodles. I mean, just totally ridiculous looking. And my kids were like, "What's the matter with your legs?" And they're screaming, "Are you gonna fall down?" I said, "No, I'm just coming down." And I was scared. I was scared to even go back down. But this fear of heights, it plays itself out, this fear of heights, in other ways. When I was a kid, I went to this place called Cedar Point, and I don't believe they still have the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the world. But at the time when I was a kid, they did. In fact, they had the tallest and fastest roller coaster, both made out of metal and of wood. The one that was metal was called the Magnum, and the one made out of wood was called the Mean Streak. Well, I was terrified of both of those. Well, one day, my dad, we went to Cedar Point as a big group. My dad was with me, and right away, first thing in the morning, he says, "Look, you got to go on the Magnum with me." And I'm looking at this thing, and the Magnum, it goes up way high, and that's just terrifying. And I said, "Why would I do that?" And he said, "If you ride the largest and fastest roller coaster in the world, and it's right here, you're looking at it right now, if you're brave enough to say, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna get on this ride, I'm gonna go down that roller coaster, I might soil my pants, right? But I'm gonna do it. And when it's over, and you're still alive, and you've survived, and you've experienced the fear and the rush and everything else, every other ride after that is chump change. It's easy peasy after that, because you have faced the hardest one." Now, I'm not going to use that lesson for this video. I'm not going to start with the hardest one. You can't do that. If you start with the most difficult thing, the pinnacle of them all, then people aren't going to stick around for the end, okay? So that's my admission. But I wanted to throw that out there, right? It plays a role. Now, as I was pondering confession, I was wondering, how do I want to frame this? What do I want to talk about in regards to confession? I figured there'd be 3 things in my own life that help to flesh out my feelings about confession. The first one pertains to friendship. The second one pertains to being yourself in a public way. And the third one pertains to God. So I have this friend, and his name is Chad Lutsky. He's an amazing guy. In fact, he's brilliant. He's an amazing guitarist and singer. He's an artist, although he kind of hates painting and stuff. He's an accomplished writer at this point, publishing numerous books. But he's also a director and an actor of kind of these indie films that I've been part of. And he wrote most of it. Now, we worked together. We bounced ideas off of each other. But the truth is, he's the genius behind it. And many people who follow my work have seen these videos. They've seen them, a lot of them, through Paleonaughty. So Paleonaughty and what is now going to be Thotopopinski. Whether it's the adventures of Oral or upcoming videos that will include date night and a video about a cult and a guy who worships a kidney bean, one where I don't use my legs and I'm dragging my body around with no legs. Really weird stuff, okay? I was like 21 years old, okay? I was a young guy. But it was tons of fun, and we were very close friends. We also made movie reviews. We did a review of Italian Spider-Man. We did a review of Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. We did a review of Laser Blast, and it'll blow your mind. But we did these movie reviews. We even did one of Black Dynamite, but that one's never going to be seen. So we did all of this stuff, and we were really close. In fact, he was my best friend for many years of my life. Him and Scott Farley and a couple other people. Rest in peace, Scott Farley. But we were really close. But then we weren't. Part of that, I think, had to do with the fact that we moved. But part of that also had to do with the fact that I was very slowly finding myself further and further away from God. We talked a little bit about this, but over time there eventually came a point where we were no longer talking. And there was, for the longest time actually, I wasn't entirely sure what it was that was the final straw. Like was there an exact conversation that took place? But we didn't unfriend each other on Facebook. And I would still follow his work. I saw that he was publishing books. But we didn't talk. We didn't even talk throughout most of the time, pretty much, that my daughter was suffering with cancer. But again, we never completely separated. Now, daughter dies. 2 years later, I find myself back with the Lord. And I'm trying to figure out how to fix some bridges that I burned down, right? I was a crazy man with a torch burning down entire forests and all these bridges and things that I'd built, things that were actually important to me, you know, including, in fact, the relationship with Lucian's godparents, which are in another video you can find on the site of his traditional Roman Catholic baptism. But Chad came up. And part of it was because of the Paleocrat videos, especially the adventures of Oral. My kids loved the character. In fact, my daughter, for the longest time, she was pretty young, but she didn't even know it was me. She thought it was a hilarious character, this old man. So they're watching these videos, and they ask the question, why aren't you friends with Chad anymore, Papa? You know, they're really good at asking difficult questions. They are. And they pop up all the time. They're going to be in all these stories because they really are a huge motivating factor in my life. They urge me on to be a better man. But I had to think it through. And it stuck with me. I didn't respond right away. You know, it took probably another month of really thinking this stuff through. And eventually I made a decision. I said, you know, I've got to say something. I have to overcome the sense of pride that wants to blame the other person or expect that the other person make the first move. I needed to face myself in that way. And I eventually did. And I admitted that I wasn't entirely sure how all of that went down, but that I didn't care anymore and that I knew in my heart of hearts that it had a lot to do with me. And so I told him I was sorry, that I was wrong, and that I'm trying to find myself again. The second instance of confession has to do with something very recent, in fact. In fact, with the video I mentioned earlier pertaining to my MAGA hat and the InfoWars shirt in public and the interaction that took place with a guy very upset over that. I mentioned in the blog with the full video that I was afraid. Specifically, my support for Donald Trump and the fact that I voted for Donald Trump and the fact that I am continuing to be unashamed of my vote and support for Donald Trump. But what was interesting about this is I had talked a lot about my beliefs that would give an indication that I did in fact support the candidacy of Donald Trump. And I had a radio program. I had a website where I would occasionally blog, not often. I would tweet regularly about these issues. In fact, there was a long time before Scott McConnell of American Conservative Magazine reached out to me and said, look, you know, you should consider backing off of Twitter for a while. And he did. And it was an awesome thing. I'm actually super grateful for that. And I wrote a response back to him, and I'm really grateful that he's continued to follow me. And that he's anticipating the publication of the book about my daughter's life and death, with childhood cancer. But I talked about these beliefs. I talked about the nation state, my opposition to open borders, this idea that we just travel, it's an arbitrary line, blah, blah, blah. I've been opposed to that forever. I've talked openly about my belief in American economics. People have called me a protectionist. I have been anti-war for a long time, talking about neocons and neoliberals and people who geopolitically want to get involved in all of these problems around the world and feel that it's incumbent upon us to not only be involved, but to lead the way and sacrifice American lives for these things. I've opposed lobbyists. I've opposed the establishment of the political parties. I've been critical of third wave feminism. I got flack on Facebook for my opposition to certain proposals regarding transgenderism. I was critical of the idea that gender is just simply this social construct and that we're all blank slates. I disagreed with the deep state. I opposed one worldism, this kind of Tower of Babel, multiculturalism, diversity, and tolerance scheme that leftists like so much. I even got in trouble for talking about Hillary's health, okay? And some people gave me flack, but it was like a glaze that went over people's eyes, right? That they couldn't see through it. And it shaded everything they saw about me, whether it was projecting on me this idea that I shared their beliefs, or they simply failed to see it because they were so focused, and rightly so, on my daughter and on the story that we were putting out there about our family. And I tried really hard to not be too divisive on Facebook. So unless you were actually following me on Twitter or unless you were listening to my show, you were mainly just getting stuff that was trying really hard not to be divisive, because we had people from all different religious and political and ethnic backgrounds all over the place on our wall following our story. And I didn't want to do anything that would jeopardize that. But I supported Donald Trump. And yet, I was afraid. I was afraid of damaging the way that people would see my daughter, which now that she's gone, would be like graffitiing the past. I was also afraid because I knew stories of people who'd been hurt. I'd been around groups that talked in defense of violence against people who believed in that stuff. I'd in fact been in a room with people who were talking about an instance where a young Hispanic gay man with a MAGA hat got beat up pretty bad. I think even maybe had a brick thrown at his face. When people were talking about it, individuals in this small group, they didn't find that to be very problematic. In fact, they said things like, well, you know, I wouldn't do that myself, but these people get what they deserve. And here I am sitting there, what am I going to say? I've been in rooms with people, you know, in the meltdown after the election, with rooms of people where they're talking about how they can't even be friends with their own children or their own parents anymore because of this. And I'm hearing it, and they're not associating me with that. So I was legitimately afraid. I was afraid of the fallout. I was afraid of the violence. But I eventually had to get to the point where I confessed this, where I confessed it to myself. Not just to other people, but to me. And that I was willing to wear a symbol that said, this is where I'm at. There's no ambiguity here. I'm wearing a red MAGA hat. Here's where I got it. Here's the year I got it. You loved me then. You followed me. You admired me. You thought I was exemplary. But I had to face that. I had to face the fear. And then there's church. I remember when we first started going to church that I wasn't entirely there. I wasn't there in my heart. But we would go to church, and week after week, and we would get to the point, right, the pinnacle of all the Mass, what it's all about, the sacrifice at the altar. And all of a sudden, everybody's walking up, and our kids would look over, and they would see it. And they would see all of the people. And I knew it was coming. I knew they would ask. And lo and behold, Athanasius, he looked at me, kind of leaned in and whispered, he goes, what are those people doing? I said, they're taking communion. He said, are we allowed to do that? I said, no. Well, why not? Because you haven't gone to First Communion yet? Have you? Yes. Shh. Well, why aren't you going now? I remember going home that day, and my wife, she comes up to me and she says, Jeremiah, we need to go to confession. And I knew it. I knew it. We're so host. I knew what I had to do. I went downstairs and I found my old examination of conscience book. And I have one that's ridiculously thorough. In fact, probably scrupulously thorough. But at the same time, people come from different places in their lives. And so, you know, as long as it's applying to as many people as they can try to think of, it's good in that way. But I'm going through and I'm evaluating about 8 years of just wild and reckless sin. I had to write it down. I had to think it through, and even think through how many times did I do certain things? How frequent do I find myself doing this particular sin? And the reason for that, for anyone who doesn't understand, the reason is that if you're going into a confessional to speak to your confessor who's going to give you advisements and penance, the idea is to reform you, to forgive you of your sins, to reconcile you with God, and for you to go and sin no more. That's part of the act of contrition. Oh my God, I'm heartily sorry for having offended thee, and I detest all my sins because I dread the loss of heaven and the pains of hell. But most of all, because they offend thee, my God, who art all good and deserving of all my love. I firmly resolve, with the help of thy grace, to confess my sins, to do penance, and to amend my life. Now, the modern version of that talks about avoiding the near occasion of sin. But if you don't know what sins are most prominent for you, and if your confessor is not made aware of what sins are most prominent to you, then it might be easy to gauge wrongly and to misdiagnose the treatment that's needed for you to go and sin no more. So I had to face this, and it was such a shame. I wrote it down, and I made sure that afterward I had a good lighter nearby to burn that bad boy. Right? I don't want people seeing that. And then the day came. And so I go to church on that day. And I'm downstairs. I'm still new here. I don't really know people. I'm kind of avoiding everybody. I didn't want to rock any boats. I knew that I was controversial just being there in a way. So I'm downstairs minding my own beeswax. And this guy comes up to me. And he goes, Paleocrat? And I'm like, I only have this a handful of times, man. If someone I don't know or I don't recognize, if they come up to me and they identify me by Paleocrat, there's a good possibility that I don't know how this is going to go. It could go one of multiple directions. This guy, he said, look, I followed your work for a long time, back when I was an editor at Distributist Review. And he says, you made a huge impact on me. I read all your stuff at Distributist Review. I've watched all your videos on YouTube. What are you doing here? And he knew, because he'd followed me, he knew about Sammy. And he said that too. But he was wondering, why are you here? And I looked at him, and for the first time, to anybody, to their face, I said, I need to go to confession. He ran to the door, and he opened it so wide, and he says, sir, he said, you go to confession. And he said, I'm so glad you're here. But then I had to stand in line. And all these people, and you're self-conscious, and you're kind of in this line against the wall as the mass is going. And the line's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And you're getting closer and closer, and your heart's pounding and racing. And finally the door opens up, and there you are. There's the kneeler, empty, waiting for you. So I knelt down at that kneeler, and I poured my heart out. I said every single dirty, rotten, terrible, blasphemous, heretical thing. Every bit of it. Perversion, betrayal, deceit, sin. And I cried and cried and cried. When I was done with that act of contrition, the priest on the other side, he asked if he could see me. Now, I'm not accustomed to this, by the way, but this was in a room where you could walk around the screen and still have the privacy of the door behind you being closed. And like the priest on Christmas Eve, he looked me in the face and he says, "Welcome home, prodigal son. Welcome home." And he hugged me. I went back to the pew. I looked over at my wife, who had also gone to confession, and she smiled and nodded at me as she was fumbling with a rosary in her hand. My kids grabbed my arms and they snuggled their faces against me. I was forgiven. In each and every one of these stories, there was something that I was afraid of. The sense of pride, a desire to hide, and a dread, a recoiling at what I would find if I looked inside myself. I was afraid of what I'd denied, and I hated the fact that it happened after my daughter had died. And yet in all of this, when everything was said and done, I had restored a long-lost friendship. My sense of self-respect and identity, in fact, had been restored. And more than all of that, my faith in God. So I encourage you, if you have broken friendships, if you're afraid of what people may think of you, if you've been hiding things from your friends and family or your coworkers and your classmates, or if you've been away from God, ask yourself the difficult questions. Slay your pride, and more than anything else, face the confessional. Stare down that kneeler. Examine your conscience. Reveal the sin in your life to yourself and confess it. Because the truth is, like the lesson I learned from my dad at Cedar Point, that's the Magnum. That is the tallest roller coaster, the fastest one in this theme park that we call life. And if you can brave that, if you can brave the heights, and if you can brave the speed of confession to God, then every ride after that isn't nearly as scary.
All right. I'm really grateful for all of you. And I hope that through the Throwback Thursday that went way longer. You know, I know that the first half was a lot of jabberjaw. It happens, right? But I hope that you can see the rhythm and the rhyme of my madness. You know, it's obvious that I'm insane. It's obvious that I'm a crazy person, right? Hair on fire, pounding the table, giggling and carrying on about crazy nonsense with animal uprisings and all this other stuff, and having a good time, a nerd having fun. But the truth is, at the root of it all, that right there is who I am. That right there is who I am. And that's why I do what I do. God saved me. God saved me. If God saved you, say it out loud. Don't be afraid anymore. Tell your friends, tell your family the great things that God has done and the great things that God has left to do, in part through you. These last 5 months have been an honor, and tomorrow is going to be an amazing show. No jabberjaw. It's going to be just gung-ho. Gung-ho from the get-go. It's what we're going to do because it's a launching pad. It's like I told somebody, they were sad and they said, man, it's a bummer you're going away. And I said, I'm waving hello. I'm waving hello. I'm saying we need bigger and better than ever. Everything we've got, if we really believe that, if I believe that, if it's more than just a phrase that I'm using, to get people to be pumped up, but if it's something I actually mean, that I'm going to give my best every single moment of every single day, then there's no throwaway culture here. Every single thing we've got is rocking. Every single thing we put our hands to, we give our best. We don't want to leave a bunch of crap around. The idea is to make it better than we found it. And I don't want to do that by spamming the daylights out of the internet. I want to do that by targeting specific things, specific ideas, principles, guiding and foundational things in our lives that can make us better, that can advance the kingdom, that can establish a transgenerational continuity of the fear of God and the advancement of Christ's kingdom. And I have one promise also to make. And somebody asked me about this. They said, are you a professional Catholic? And I think that, even non-Catholics know what I mean. Are you a professional Christian? And my promise to you is that I will simply be me. I am okay with the idea that I will be an unsung hero, a starving artist. I'm okay with that. I've compared it and said, look, it's like King David. King David gives his best and his all, and the idea of being the one to build that temple, but he couldn't. It wasn't for him. It had to break his heart. And I'd be lying to say it doesn't bum me out a little. I'd love in some ways, boy, wouldn't it be great to have a ton of money, right? Wouldn't that be great where it's not a joke when I'm saying that I'm diving into like Scrooge McDuck on a diving board, diving into that pool of gold coins. Wouldn't that be great? On the other hand, I know that little eye of a needle that would be at the other end for me to make it through to get to heaven. I know. And I want nothing to do with that. I want to be a professional me. And I am a Catholic, yes. And God will always be the center of that. You'll see by the lectures and by the presentations and the productions that I make and the writings that I do. But I ain't going to play you. I'm not going to play you. I'm not going to play the audience like this. It enrages me. I know enough about this business that I can see it from a mile away, and it smells like crap. It's the sulfur from the pit of hell to see it. I'm not that. But I am the guy that wants to be a Catholic who's a professional. Not a professional Catholic. I want to be a Catholic who's professional, who uses the gifts and talents to the best of my ability to put together works of art in the craft that I do, the liturgy of my life, the calling and vocation that I have, as humble as it may be, and use it to leave lasting things, not only for me, but for my family. And that family, by the way, includes you. You're extensions of this. I mean it when I said that you are some of the greatest people I've ever known. It truly makes me so happy when I get online and I see your names in those comment sections. When I see people share it and they tell their friends how much they love this show, you don't know what it means to me. You've changed me. That's why I said yesterday, a lot of the people who will be the saddest that I'm not doing this every single day are some of the most instrumental people in my decisions to do what I'm going to do from now on. And for that, I hope that they're happy. And I mean it. I hope that they're happy, that you're happy, that you can say, look at the impact we've had on this man. Look at the ideas that he has. Look at what he wants to do. And to pray for me. To pray with all you've got. To include me and to watch when we're on. To go to paleocratdiaries.com. If you're not a subscriber right now, you're nuts. You're nuts. Because like I said earlier, we're on like Donkey Kong. The Gatling gun is loaded. We're ready to go. In all these different directions, being obliterated by that train, by that social media train that's coming my way, arms outstretched and a smile on my face, a twinkle in my eye. Knowing that as I'm obliterated into smithereens, into a billion pieces, that it's going to result in amazing things. And hopefully that will be an even greater inspiration for you. Because we're together. Because we're a wolf pack. And because we're out of time. Because we're out of time right now. We are out of time right now. And so we're going to go ahead. So remember, tomorrow, okay, I'm not even going to have the friends that were at the funeral. They're back now. I can hear them upstairs. So I'm not even going to have my wife and everybody come down. And this is between the two of us. The two of us, me and you. And there's a lot of you. Okay, it's not like there's one person watching. And I told you, if it was, I'd be doing the exact same thing. Giving it everything I got. It's a principle. It's a motivating thing. And so, and I'm compelled, in fact. Compelled to do this. And so I'm grateful for all of you. We are an amazing show. We are an amazing wolf pack. And the mission that we have in this world has just begun. We got a lot of work to do. We got to roll up those sleeves. We got to get our hands dirty, don't we? And we have to get that sweat on our brow again. We need to make those connections. We need to put stuff in forms that are able to be put in place in a way that's going to have long standing. And we're going to do it. That's my promise to you. And as I said, you hold me to it. You pray for me and you hold me to it, because the thing is, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I'm not going to do a daily show so I can sit and watch a bunch of Amazon Prime. No way, Jose. Ain't happening that way. Ain't how it's happening. And so we're going to keep on marching along. We're going to keep on howling. We're going to keep on doing that. And we'll figure out what day that is. I'll talk to the manager today, and we'll make a decision on if it's going to be morning or night, weekday or weekend, because those are decisions that we're going to have to make. And so that'll be the one show. I'm probably going to make that one 3 hours because it's one time. So it's just a 1 day a week thing. And my goal is to connect with different people who I've wanted to interview for a while, in fact, and to have them on, and to ensure that each and every episode, that there's a period of time on those episodes where we have ourselves a good conversation with somebody else that we brought in and that we're networking with, and showing that that's one of the things that can advance with that space. Same thing with the book. Same thing with books, plural. Okay. Same thing with more art that can be available, more designs that can be available at our store, at our Zazzle store. More posts, all this stuff. So we're going to be back on tomorrow. I'm going to try to make it 11 o'clock flat. It's going to be a special episode, so you're going to need to go ahead and let everybody know. I mean, I'm serious. If you've never shared this show before and you love it, and it's kind of like maybe your own personal little secret, it shouldn't be. It's making me mad. That's true. I know it's true a little bit. But the thing is, if you have not shared this and you want people to tune in, you got to do it. And I'll have them set up a link, and so that link will make it available, so you can just copy and paste it, and you can share that link, and it'll have a little thumbnail for the show for tomorrow. Because I can promise you, as I said, lightning and thunder. Okay, everything I got, man, I'm taking it all. Every single little bit, all day long. I'm gonna be just in a zone today. Going to be in a zone preparing for the glory of what will be tomorrow's program. So you're not going to want to miss it. You're not going to want to miss it at all. And the best way to ensure that you're not going to miss it is to go to paleocratdiaries.com. You need to subscribe. All the updates that we're going to do, every single thing, when we come out with a product, when we come out with lectures, when we come out with speeches, when we do events, and we're networking with people and put together plans, it's right there. So you gotta go. Ain't no playing around anymore. This is war, isn't it? If it's war, we gotta act like it's war. And it is. We ain't fighting against flesh and blood. But man, I'm fighting with a pen and a typewriter and a camera and face-to-face interaction with people. because we're going to rock this out. We're more than conquerors, aren't we? I love you guys. Interviews. You want me to come be on your show? You want to be on mine? You want me to come and do speeches? Any other inquiry? Paleocrat Diaries at gmail.com. Of course, check out the podcast, holyfaithmedia.com, as well as all the places to subscribe and all that jazz. I love you guys with all my heart. Until next time, until tomorrow, until that amazing and fateful day, never give up. Keep on smiling. And memento mori. If I don't talk into microphones, I don't make that mad cash. Making all that money. Making that mad loot, right?
Mind control.
So we see the minority elite imposing their ideology on an unwilling and resentful populace. This causes a backlash. People get ticked off. The left is working long and hard to make us feel as if we've done something wrong. Worse yet, that we are the problem. Don't let people just rip on your heritage. Don't let people just rip on your traditions. Don't let people rip on your heroes. Stand up for what you believe, what made you who you are. So unless this disenfranchised majority begins standing up for what they believe in their heart of hearts to be true, I think we'd be left with nothing more than a dirge, and maybe a funeral procession.